On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will stump for characters that they believe to be the most important characters of all time. Those are Star Wars characters, it is. Is Rey important? What about Ahsoka, or Din Djarin, or Galen Erso? Find out who they deem to be the most overall important characters ever by tuning into this dumb Star Wars fan show. Of course, they'll end with the question of the week responses and the latest round of top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie.
Hold on a second, fine people. We're working through a technical difficulty. We'll hey now you here in 1 second. Don't go anywhere. We go, hey now everybody! Sorry about that one. See, those of you that join the live stream, you never know what you're going to get to see, BTS style. Welcome back, everyone. We speak your names first and foremost. Let's go through that live stream chat. We got Michael Kramer in here, Be Mad, Bat, Divided showing up. Johnny's in there. Oh, Michael Kramer with the super chat. Thank you, sir. Saying, I pre-ordered a Pre-Vizsla Black Series figure, and I hate to say this, but Nick, go, as in Geaux, Saints. You gotta remember Michael is a Cowboys fan. And we got Nova in here, all the faces. Good to see everyone. Welcome back to the latest edition of the SWTS. Yeah, Nick, your Saints are like on crack or something. They're what they call a wagon these days.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about how the performance is looking so far. I was really skeptical after week 1 because the Panthers are bad, but I live in the heart of Austin, Texas. I went to a bar with one of my Cowboys. Like actually, it was like eight friends there.
Did you wear the gold and black?
Oh yeah, I mean I was dressed up, but I also
were you hoo-daying motherfuckers left and right?
Who dat?
Oh yeah, that's right. Because Cincinnati's the who day.
Cincinnati's day. But I tricked the Cowboys fan into going to a Saints bar, a local Saints bar in Austin. So we had them outnumbered. It was a good time. But yeah, Saints look good. I think the offense looks a lot better under Clint Kubiak for the
not bad, man.
There.
I mean, I was trying to pick up Carr because I had Tua and he's dead now. I was like, well, Carr's throwing bombs left and right. I didn't get him. It's all right. Got my IR lined up, ready for another week of fantasy. But we're here to talk all things Star Wars. Eventually, there's always time for Star Wars time, but you know how we roll. We tend to change things up a little bit and do a little Ask Us Anything. We're for our pop culture segment this week, we're going to talk Star Wars. Big surprise. Well, we got the Rebuild the Galaxy released, and depending if you checked it out or not, we've got some thoughts on it. I've watched the whole thing. Nick is like an episode in, but yeah, that's really all you need to see. Not saying that it's bad, just saying you can kind of make the judgment from the first part if it's something you would want to stick with. Just another Wednesday here at SWTS HQ. Our special topic this week might not make sense to everyone. Who knows? We did get some good comments for question of the week, so maybe it did resonate. But we are going to rank by importance level the most important Star Wars characters of all time. And Nick, I don't know how you were kind of processing this when we get to the debate portion here. You know, we'll kind of do it like our tier ranks. We'll introduce a character, lay down our stumping for them, and then figure out a final placement. But I was thinking, like, in the terms of most important or just importance, what could that possibly mean? And I think I kind of settled on, at least for me, and I'm interested to see what you say. To me, a character's importance kind of depends or depended on their achievements to their faction's overall goal for their era. Yes, some characters may span eras, but it's really like, hey, if you're a bad guy, you can still be important if you made great contributions to the bad guy cause, and vice versa for good guy. How did you kind of process the characters and then how you're going to fight for them a bit later on?
I think mine was a very similar thought process where it was like mine was basically like the most impactful characters on the Star Wars universe. So like a little bit more broad than yours. Like, you know, who has had like over the life of their character has had the most impact on the story of Star Wars and the people that they were associated with. So similar.
Yeah. So
style
we are going to use the tier board, and by the way, we have shared out the public link if you want to check it out. It's on our main socials. It's also in the Discord, which if you want to join, go ahead. There's an open link in the description for this live stream, or our link tree, whatever. You can find it. Do what you got to do. But yeah, I mean, I think we settled on 23 of them, so we're gonna try our best to get through that with it not being 9 o'clock my time. But we're gonna try to figure out who are the most important. Is there more than one? Are there characters that we kind of thought were important, but maybe they're not? So stay tuned for that. There's your tease. But before we get there, kind of like we've been doing here, let's go ahead and take some questions from the fandom. We post these mostly on Instagram, but we've opened it up to Discord as well at this point in time. But we like to ask you all, or we like to prompt you all to ask us anything 2 times a week. So make sure to look for those on Instagram.com/StarWarsTime.show or our Discord. All right, first up. And I know, Spencer, don't get upset. I saw the one you posted in Discord. You have so many in the archive that I'm slowly rolling them out. Your voice will be heard. Your name will be spoken. But I kind of like this one here to start things off from Baron's Black Series. Nick, would you rather piss off a single Sith or piss off the whole Jedi Council?
I mean, if we're basing this off of the Jedi Council that we know from... I mean, like basically the only one that we know from the prequel trilogy, I would choose a single Sith, because a single Sith, if you piss them off or if you've done them wrong, you're gonna die. Like they're gonna kill you. Like you're just done. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be by their hand. Like you will find your end by one of their lackeys, by their hand, whatever. Like if you piss off the Jedi Council, like they ultimately don't do all that much. Like if you're a Jedi, then they expel you. If you're a normal person, then what? Like you like go to a trial, or like there's not a lot of, like, from what I've seen, like there's not a lot of punishment that would come down upon an individual from the Jedi Council, especially a non-Force user.
Yeah, I mean, when I first thought about this, I was like, well, it could be a numbers game. Do I want a whole council upset with me and possibly chasing me, or just a singular person? But you're right. I mean, the Jedi essentially hold no accountability for anything. I mean, they'll slap you on your wrist. They'll tell you you're bad, but then they'll try to make you good. They're not going to look to snuff you out. Where, like Nick said, a Sith's first inclination is going to be to cut your head off. So, yeah, I think I would take on the Jedi Council too, because in the end, Yoda would just ignore it, and I'd be scot-free probably 2 days later.
And they're not going to, like, they are for sure not going to kill you. Like, unless you run across Anakin Skywalker on a bad day.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to kill you. Like, they didn't want to kill motherfucking Palpatine when he was the Lord of the Sith that had just overthrown their government. The only one who wanted to kill him was fucking Mace Windu.
Yep, and then our buddy stopped that. So
yeah.
No, I think pissing off Jedi is probably better for your health than the Sith. 100%. No doubt about it. All right, next question here, coming from 2797 Studios, aka the Bat. where was this, a fucking interview, Bat?
Yeah, so what is this?
Where do you see yourselves in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really I know that some people like to do 5-year plans and shit like that. I never have. I've never been the type of person to do that. I'm just I go with the flow. I go where life takes me, so we'll see. I mean, my assumption is that I'll still be in Austin, but I'm also open to not being in Austin and somewhere else. So
since I have not been in the real world for close to 15 years now, I've too have gotten away from goal setting and planning and shit like that and having mentors, but in 5 years, like always, I mean, in 5 days, I feel like our channel should be 10 times more popular than it is. So I'm always going to see the Star Wars Time Show being bigger, badder, and better than we currently are down the road. So knowing us, in 5 years, we'll probably add 200 new subs to the channel. So we'll be looking good.
I mean, we'll see.
Professionally,
We'll see.
I'd be fine still doing what I'm doing. Depending on how things go in November, 5 years from now, I hope to be leading the fight for freedom. Definitely, I will join the Civil War if it kicks off. So there you go.
I definitely won't. I'm moving out of this.
Yeah.
I want to move out of this country now. But yeah, if it comes to fighting for a place that I live, I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'll just go somewhere else.
Hold on, we got Brogu coming in.
I don't care where I live.
Welcome, Brogu. Brogu asking, I heard that Jon Favreau was trying to include Han, Luke, and Leia in The Mandalorian and Grogu, but Harrison Ford is not signing off on it. I have not heard that. That is new to me. And typically the sources we listen to are usually spot on. So I'd say that might be some Mike Zero territory stuff.
Yeah, I don't even know how that. I mean, obviously it would make sense if this is going to be a really big event for them to be involved in it, because they're always that trio is always involved in very large scale events in Star Wars. But I feel like it would bring up the same problems that we had with the Luke stuff. Even though the Luke stuff was really cool, it ultimately just kind of made you always ask well, where's Luke Skywalker? Yeah, and I mean they kind of not crowbarred, but they figured out a smart way to layer Leia into the Mandalorian in season 3 when C-3PO acted as her kind of her voice. Remember, we learned she was the Ministry of War in the New Republic. But yeah, Han knowing Harrison, I mean, again, he fucking hates Star Wars, hates the character. Wishes he had no ties to it, even though I think it's paid him quite handsomely over his life and it has afforded him a career, but that's all right. He fucking hates it. And that's all good. He's kind of fun to watch hate Star Wars because he's the guy that kind of makes some of the goofier Star Wars YouTube creators look silly. Because when you have someone like Harrison Ford, who is Star Wars royalty, essentially say it's fucking Star Wars, get over it, it's not real, that kind of should make a point to most people that get a little upset about random Star Wars insider canon or shit like that. Hey, now we got Red Dog 5 popping up, dropping in a question. We'll take it live. That's how we roll here, brother. Gentlemen, what did you take from the Star Wars universe that you use in day-to-day life? That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think for me, it really just probably comes down to patience. Like not expecting things to happen as quickly as you would like them to. And that's a lesson that Luke had to learn. That was a lesson that Anakin was supposed to learn, is hey, everybody is aware of how good you are at what you do. But sometimes you just have to wait and you have to be patient to see the fruits of your labor kind of pay out. So, and I was the opposite of that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I had no patience. Like I was super impatient. I was super like hot-headed and erratic, and now I'm like the complete opposite.
Do you like eat Quaaludes for breakfast then? Because you're like so goddamn chill sometimes. It's almost like, is Nick alive?
It's literally it was a long time. It took me a long time, probably from when I was like 17 until I was 25.
Was it all self-help, or did you go get help?
No, it was just me.
Yeah.
It was just me.
Nice.
Like, I think that having long periods of time where I was like living by myself, like just like not like just didn't have a roommate. It was just me. And it was just me and my cat in Austin for years. And like that helped me to like really.
I like that. Patience. Good one. Honestly, Red Dog for me, it's been such a fundamental undercurrent of my entire existence. I'm not going to say everything, but I probably would kind of lean on what Divide's saying there, that the concept of the Force is something that, I know it's kind of the Star Wars religion, if you will, but I've kind of carried that over into my own life. I've given up on human-based religion. The Force is good enough for me. Be a good person, and good things will come to you through the galaxy and through this cosmic essence that binds all of us together, including nature and animals and all that shit. So it's definitely the perspective of the Force and how it's kind of rooted in more of how Native Americans kind of looked at religion and respecting people and doing the right thing, stuff like that. So it's again, light versus dark, all that stuff made a lot of sense to me, more than being told that there's a magic white guy up in the sky with long hair and the beard that everyone else can talk to and hear but me. I've really been thinking about that these days, Nick, but I mean, I know you were a young Catholic too. But when you were young and all these adults were like, oh yeah, I talk to God every day and I pray and we have conversations, were you like, well, why isn't he talking to me? Am I broken? Or are these motherfuckers lying to me? Or was that concept ever weird to you as a kid?
Not, I mean, like, I guess it's just like, it's one of those things when I was a kid, because I was raised in it. I was just like, well, and everybody always says, well, God speaks in mysterious ways. And it's like, well, whatever,
you gotta
man.
have
like,
faith,
just
young Nick. We all can hear him, but you can't, but have faith.
Like, there was a period of time, probably like my senior year of high school, where I was like a little bit more religious, and now I'm non-religious. And it was like, my senior year of high school sucked. Like, my senior year of high school was like just filled with tragedy, because I was like, Hurricane Katrina hit. I was had to evacuate from that, and like there was a long stretch of time where it was like my entire senior year of high school, like I only went half days to school because there were kids that were going to my school that like their schools were destroyed. I lost my uncle during the storm. Like I was helping people like rebuild their houses and stuff. It was like a really high stress time period. Right. And at that time, like,
so you picked up the God walkie-talkie again.
Yeah. So like at that time too, it was like my parents aren't like, we don't have a lot of money, and like there was no like nobody in the city, like no parent at that time knew how to react to like the trauma that all their kids had gone through like during Katrina. And I think that most of them don't even realize now that like, even though, maybe somebody didn't die that they knew, or maybe their house wasn't destroyed, like everybody who went through that went through a lot of trauma. So like, it was just my way of like coping with what was going on around me.
Got you.
But like, it had never become like an obsession for me. And now I just find myself to be a non-religious person.
Yeah. Like I said, even as a kid, I'd always sit there and in my head be like, am I fucking broken? Like why all these adults are telling me this motherfucker talks to them one-on-one, they pray and shit happens, and just never resonated with me. So yeah, like you, I've kind of detached from that and become one of the Force. I mean, in the end, if you really want to get down to it, if you really want to think hard, religion was invented for two reasons: to make sure humans didn't devolve into complete animals, mostly men, and to control the masses. So just chart through history, and it lines up perfectly. All right. Yes, we do host one of the best Star Wars podcasts that barely anyone listens to, but we're okay with that. We are okay with that. All right. Good questions there, everyone. We love all of you. Up next, we got Abigail Sky, a.k.a. the Divided Skywalker. When was the last time you two were in the same place at the same time?
Yeah,
way back
Chicago
in
2019.
April of 2019 at Star Wars Celebration, the one that was for Tross and kicking off The Mandalorian. It was a good event. I definitely overdrank one night that made
I think we all did that.
But you weren't
one
like
night.
fucking yawking in the taxi and spending the first 2 hours waking up throwing up, and it was not good. But
that was a fun time though, because we had done the show floor. I think you had done an interview with the VR, like the Vader Immortal VR game that day. And then we went out. So it was me and my partner, Taylor, you and your wife, and Ryan, the old intern, and then his partner as well. We all went out to this comedy club in Chicago. Like Chicago comedy clubs are great. Like they're fun. And it was an improv show that was going on.
We forced you and Taylor to perform.
Everybody was drinking. I got brought up on the stage twice, so I'm up on the stage 2 times during this improv show, and everybody's just drinking and having a good time. It was great. Yeah,
except everyone was feeding Matt IPAs while they were drinking like Coors Lights and waters. So
that was mostly your wife. Feeding you those
people
beers.
love me. People love me. No, I mean, listen, Star Wars Celebration Chicago was great. Outside of the timing and the weather, it was kind of shit. But the venue and just Chicago and all the bars and restaurants, plus it's got really good mass transport. You got to, like any big city, you got to worry about getting stabbed or shot. But hey, that's part of living in America. So outside of Indianapolis, where Celebration started, or at least went to for Celebration 2 and 3, I've found Chicago to be one of my favorites. So I've been to Chicago, Orlando, and Indy, I believe, are all my celebrations. All right, B-Mad coming in here. We can read this last. We're going to read it right frickin' now, bro. You can read this last. Who in the Star Wars universe is the biggest hypocrite?
Star Wars. And that could be taken a very different way, but we'll say it's Star Wars. That's a hard question. I saw that Michael Kramer said Han. Han is kind of like if you look at the definition of hypocrite, like I don't know if he is, like he's just like he is truly reluctant to do anything. The biggest hypocrite, dude, it almost, I don't know. I feel like the biggest hypocrite might be like Mace Windu. Like, I don't know. I feel like
it is tough. I would almost pin this on Hobo Yoda when he says, "Do or do not, there is no try." But what did he do for the past 18 years? Nothing. He did nothing. He didn't even try. Like, he didn't even get to the try part, Nick. He could not do the do. He didn't even try. He just sat there like Obi-Wan and felt sorry for himself. So if you're going to tell young motherfuckers, hey, do or do not, there is no try, well then you better believe in your own sauce.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I think that version of Yoda for sure. All right. And I think at that point, like, he had started to really kind of break his own rules too, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he was crazy. That's why, you probably can't say this anymore, but he was, at least in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, his shortened handle was Hoda. Okay, Hobo Yoda. All right,
Hobo Yoda.
All right, next up here, Michael Kramer. What movie or TV show are you looking forward to this fall or in 2025? And Nick, one more time, go Saints. Sad emoji.
Yes. What TV show or movie that I'm looking forward to? I mean, it was Beetlejuice for sure. And I got to see that, so I was pretty hyped about that. I don't know. I mean, like, it's probably two pieces that already released. It was Rings of Power, and then, Rings of Power is still going on, and
man, that show,
Beetlejuice.
episode 5, another banger, man. Just spending time in Khazad-dûm and
I know,
more shit with Anatar and Celebrimbor, and just like how he masterfully tricks him for the human rings.
It's like I love watching that show because I'm watching it with Taylor, and the whole time I'm like, you see all this shit happening and you know what it leads to, and you're like, why? It's like Celebrimbor literally says, he's like, we're not gonna, like, after they did the 3, he's like, we're not gonna do the 7. We're not gonna do it. Like, Gil-galad said, shut it down. We're gonna shut it down.
Right.
And then he fucking does it anyway. And then he did the same thing with the 9. He tells Anatar, he's like, we're not doing anymore. Like, there's something wrong with the 9.
Right. He's like, no, we're just going to make him anyways, but you can't help. And he lets him do that. He's like, all right.
Yeah. And then he still, and then he still does it. And it's like, oh my God, like you were right both times. You were right. You shouldn't have done it.
It goes to show you how good Sauron is. I mean, once he has you kind of locked into his silver tongue, you're toast.
Yeah. And then like you were saying too, the stuff in Khazad-dûm and like them, like you see like delving too deep, like now like what?
Oh yeah. I mean, what's her name is doing her rock song and the Balrog essentially replies, and then they're looking at the map and Durin the Third, who set the, we can't go here, but now he's cracked out from the rings. Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but was that true in the books? Did the dwarves' rings kind of get tainted?
I mean, the dwarven rings, the only rings that weren't affected by Sauron were the 3 elven rings. All of the rest of them were. Okay. So yeah, it's like their rings are tainted by the
they explain in the show, and Anatar's like, well, you did lie, so you did make these in deceit.
Yes. So like he's already shifting blame.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only rings that weren't affected were the 3 elven rings.
Yeah, divided, still loving Beric. Yeah. No, it rings of power. Like I said, outside of the just pure Númenórean episode this season, episode 3, it's been a banger. Even the Númenor stuff in episode 5 got a little bit better because they're starting to show how what Pharazôn is already little gook, and Arendelle is kind of fighting back or whatnot. So
yeah,
it's a good show. It really is a good show. I guess for me, Kramer. Let's get in the 2025. If they ever going to make the 3rd part of Spider-Man Across the Multiverse, I'd love to see that, of course. But hell, Andor 2025. There we go. We'll keep it Star Wars. So I'm excited to kind of see how they loop that up and take us right to the opening of Rogue One. All right, next question here. Tiger Lily 8118. If you could erase one Star Wars character from ever existing, who would it be?
Dude, it sounds like, and here's the thing. I'm gonna say one, and it's gonna be the one that everybody's thinking of. But I don't want, like, this is not an indictment against Ahmed Best. It's not an indictment against his performance.
You do it, Nick.
Or anything.
Don't you do it?
And it's only because I really feel like Jar Jar Binks was just not well thought out. I just think that it's fine. Like, I don't care about the other Gungans or like the Gungan War or even like how that character, like even that character exists, but the way that George wrote it was awful. Like it was awful. He had no fucking clue what to do with that character after episode 1. So in episode 2, he essentially just gets like shunted off to the side and then like basically becomes the scapegoat for the bullshit happening with Palpatine in episode 3. It really did feel like George was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have this funny kid-based character for episode 1, and then everybody asked him, is like, well, what's he gonna do in episode 2 and 3? He's like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. Like, just make him do something.
Be a guy.
And then the fact that nobody else wants to touch that character, like to the point to where he was literally written off in a fucking comic book.
You're making some valid points. I mean, I feel bad. Hopefully EKU Rory is not listening right now because he may go, cut himself over this. But
I just don't see I don't see a more useless character in Star Wars.
Right. I'm going to tell you who it is. You ready?
Okay.
Special edition ROTJ Jabba Palace Joe Yowza. Fuck that guy. You know that See ya. Gone.
Yeah.
You should have never been in there in the first place. You weren't in there in the first place. And then the maker crammed you in because he wanted to play with his CGI toys. So fuck that guy. Literally,
that's a good one.
Hate that guy. I mean, literally hate that guy. All right, B-Mad coming in with another question. We love this guy. What's your best Star Wars character impression?
Oh, I don't really have a lot of great Star Wars character impressions, right? Like, I don't know. It's a trap.
There you go.
Maybe it's Admiral
Speaking
Akbar.
of Akbar, man, he had a great turn in Rebuild the Galaxy.
Yeah, the first episode.
The Akbars become
Akbar.
the clone troopers. What the fuck?
Yeah,
you gotta love it.
That's great.
Okay, best impression. I'll rattle off a few, and you guys can pick. And I'm not good at any of these, and I'm kind of embarrassed to even do them. But here we go. Do or do not. There is no try.
That's good. That's good.
Do it. Do it. Hello there. Hello there. Hello there. And then Kenobi. All right, there you go. You guys pick from that lineup, but appreciate you, B-Man. Thank you. And last but not least, there he is. Nick just shit on his parade today. Like literally opened his mouth and took a dump. EKU Rory, favorite wing sauce flavor.
Favorite wing sauce flavor. So I know you're a B-dubs guy and we're a Wingstop house. So we probably got some different
I'm guessing
opinions.
they share sauces. I'm not as cracked out on B. It's not like my every Friday like it used to be when Nick and I started.
Yeah.
But it is still close, and I think their wings aren't too bad.
For me, I like me and Taylor like hot stuff. Like we've done the whole hot ones challenge and stuff before. So like I like hotter sauces.
Like just traditional hot buffalo or like other hot wings, like a Chernobyl or an Atomic.
Yeah, like super hot shit.
Yeah, the
like
dumb shit where you might
stuff.
need milk or something or you'll die. Okay.
But one of my favorites from Wingstop is the mango habanero sauce, which is like one of their hotter ones.
Yeah, I like eating hot shit too, but I also like tasting my food after the first one. So I tend to not go balls out, multiple little fires next to the wing flavor these days. But, gun to head, I'm with Batman. I think garlic parm has been like a dream pairing for wing sauce, nuggets, chicken like that. It's got a good savory, sweet or like salty taste to it.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes a traditional buffalo just really hits the mark. Or
always like a good traditional buffalo. For
spicy
sure.
garlic's good, hot barbecue. But like I said, we got to pick our favorite one. I guess these days I'd probably go garlic parm.
There you go.
All right. I think there was one more, but it got clipped. Yeah, our boy Johnny here. So since Kenobi, we saw Beru show that she was packing heat. Do you think there was a brief shootout when the stormtrooper came looking for the droids?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure that there was.
Yeah, because it looked like they were running out and they just got lit up and then caught on fire, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to tell. Like, they didn't get shot with blasters. It definitely looked like they got incinerated. So, but I assume, given the fact that, I mean, Owen and Beru obviously know that the Empire is looking for this kid, that whenever they saw fucking stormtroopers rolling up, they got ready.
Yeah, Johnny, that's actually a very astute point. What he's saying, if you remember back to the Kenobi series, once they knew that Reva was looking for Luke, you saw them, and it was like, not John Wick, I forget, maybe Rambo, but they essentially had weapons stashed in strategic locations as they went through their hovel there on Tatooine. They could grab gats to blow stuff up. So yeah, I mean, and here's another weird thing. I don't know. I know you were older, Nick, when you watched Star Wars for the first time, but as a kid, when I saw the aunt and uncle literally fricasseed, I was like, damn, the stormtrooper blaster bolts are hardcore. Like I actually thought that was like a one shot and they just turned to bones. But
that's kind of what my first thought was.
Right. I mean, they kind of make it that way.
I was like, yeah, I was like 10 and it was like, oh wow, like you've never seen up to that point like a stormtrooper use anything but just a regular blaster pistol. So you're like, holy fuck, what?
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, so all right. Good point there. Be Mad with another one. Hey, we'll sit here all day and answer questions. This is easy Star Wars time. All right, if you could redo Mando S3, what would you change?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they had kind of like, you can't just change Mando season 3. You kind of got to change everything that leads up to it, because season 2 was leading into this the entire way. Like, it's not like season 3 came out of nowhere.
Honestly,
and like
League may have the best answer. Move the Book of Boba Fett Mando content to season 3.
Yeah, but I don't think that fixes it. Like, I think that, like, I don't know. It's just like that storyline was just built to be the resurrection of Mandalore. You would have to change a lot in order to fully change it.
You're kind of spot on. So I think the only thing they could have done was not make Din the backup so early in the season, because I think that's what bent a lot of people, because they were used to Din being the main, and kind of when Bo took over, I think people, the formula's kind of changed, and Din's just kind of hanging back, doing. Yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me. I get it. She's Bo fucking Katan. I mean, she's gonna rule the planet. So, but him and Grogu definitely took a back seat overall in season 3, and they're the fucking stars. So. Yeah.
I just like I was saying before, like the only thing that's really kind of bothered me about that show, I didn't mind the storyline of season 3, because it was just like, well, this is the direction that they're going, unification and stuff like that. Like,
even more so than the Mandalorians, it moved that era of the galaxy closer to this showdown with Thrawn and the New Republic kind of teaming up with some of these random heroes across the galaxy. B Mad saying here, he feels like Boba should have been there, and yeah, I do. I mean, Boba owes him. I mean, listen, Boba has no love for his cloned Mandalorian culture and roots, but he owes Din. I mean, Din kind of helped him out big time in the Book of Boba Fett.
But is that like, if you're Din, do you want to call in your one favor from this badass motherfucker to something that you really don't care that much about?
Din pretty much told Boba, like, Boba's like, why the fuck are you here? Get out of here. And Din's like, listen, man, this is what I do. So,
I feel like I call him in on a more important thing. And like, I know that like you can never tell what's going to be the most important thing. Like, everything that you're like confronted with in your life is the most important thing at that moment. But like, that was literally like, look, I'm helping you get your shit back together. Like, this isn't like, I'm not bleeding this fucking Mandalorian stuff. Like, this is your shit. If I have like an ace up my sleeve, I'm saving it till it's something that's really important to me.
Yeah, Grogu's in trouble again.
Yeah,
or like Din's in trouble and Grogu has to go get Boba.
Yeah, something like I don't know if the move was like calling them in on the Mandalore thing, because it wasn't even like a shitload of people. It was like Moff Gideon and 12 fucking robots. So I feel like I would have held it.
All right, fair enough. Okay, another great Ask Us
Help
Anything.
me get this helmet off.
those are always fun. I even like the live ones in the stream, so kudos to all of you for playing along. I saw a noob pop in here, Lord Toth. Welcome. Hopefully you're still here. If not, it would not surprise us, because we tend to scare them away quicker than they come in. All right, buddy. Before we get into this week's special topic, we did want to talk a little bit about Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy and some Skeleton Crew news that actually dropped today. But real quick, the Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, it released last Friday. It's a 4-part series. All episodes drop. They're about 23 minutes a piece, so like a regular 30-minute type of show. And I'll tell you what. It's fucking fun, okay? It's fun. It really is. It's a fun concept. It kind of gives some of us that what if experience, especially for characters like Luke, Han, Rey, even Rose is in there, Jar Jar, Kit Fisto, you name it. The Emperor, Darth Vader, Jabba the Hutt. It gives you all that type of stuff. If anything, it introduces some amazing looking Lego minifigs that I hope they release for us to collect. I know the Black Falcon is going to be a set. I'm 100% going to get that. It had some heart. It was really good at being self-deprecating, as Lego Star Wars typically is. Nick, I know you watched the first episode, but I thought when Siggy was doing the quick prequels recap, I mean, the fact that they just made the prequels are like, oh, they're whiny, and then the originals, I forget what he said, but when they get to the sequels, they're like, and then there was Luke, but he became really cranky and didn't want to help anybody.
Yeah, it's like, and then Palpatine came back. We don't know how that.
Yeah,
happened.
I know. I always love how Lego Star Wars has the balls to be very tongue in cheek with stuff that fans talk about. And I feel like this whole series is kind of that. A lot of the stuff they do is sometimes could be a response to, fandom type of discussions or critiques, or maybe even things the fan loves. So, we're looking at the poster. You can just tell things aren't right. You got Rose Tico holding the lightsaber. You got a white Darth Vader, an angry looking Rey, Maul dressed like Lando from the Solo series. And then, like we said earlier, Admiral Akbar became the clone army. So it's that wonky, but you get some really cool moments. You get some cool looking Lego builds. For example, the Jedi in this galaxy are essentially all the Sith from our known galaxy, and they're riding in a sand crawler that has at legs. And it can fly. It's just like, I just like the wild shit that the creators came up with. And if you've ever had a hard on for Darth Jar Jar, you finally get him. So, Sir Dork is asking, it's not a movie. I mean, if you string them all together, dude, you're looking at 80 minutes. So it pretty much is. It is like a kid's movie, 100%. It's just fun. Like, the only character that remains constant is Princess Leia, and they actually said they made a conscious choice. They're like, no, Leia would be Leia everywhere. It doesn't matter what universe we're in. Leia would always be Leia. I liked what they did with long hair Luke on Tatooine that had oceans now. He was like a famous pod racer, but they race on the water. He would cheat using the Force. It's fun material. You'll probably get more out of it if you got little ones. Mine actually didn't want to watch it. That's how far removed she is from Star Wars. But if you've liked Lego Star Wars in the past, you will like this. It's a nice story set after the Rise of Skywalker, so I guess it's our first content post-sequel trilogy. And it's kind of a fun play on the galaxy and the characters we all know and love.
Yeah, I saw the first one like you had mentioned, and it was definitely a very interesting concept, and it was their way of essentially doing like the what if for Star Wars, same way they did Marvel. I will say that I really wish that they would have chosen to do this in the animation style that Rebels and Clone Wars was in, because I think that more people would watch it. You
know what else was off, Nick? And I would have to go fire up some recent Lego Star Wars. I really felt like this one, they went out of their way to kind of make it look like stop motion animation.
Yeah,
like it just the frame rate didn't seem right. The movements felt a little jaggy, but it is Lego Star Wars is its thing. Like Bango's, the Lego Droid Tales are some of the funniest shit that it lives in the Star Wars tangential universe. So, if you're down with Lego Star Wars and the way it plays with the galaxy, you're gonna dig this. Lots of fun little moments there and nods to super fans and casuals alike. All right. News time, and we even posted it on our little site. How about that? Look at me getting crazy today. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of a payoff on a story we did. Hell, it's got to be well over a year ago at this point in time. Yeah, that's right, B-Mad. Pharrell is literally going to make his documentary, but it's Lego animation.
That makes sense for
I've
Pharrell.
seen the trailers too. Like, it's wild. It just looks like the Lego movie, but it's Pharrell. Anyways, back to this news lead here. A year or two ago, we talked about how Jaleel White was pegged to be in Skeleton Crew. He even talked about himself. This wasn't much of a leak. He's like, yeah, I'm in this Skeleton Crew. And it took a long time for me to get ready. Lots of prosthetics. I'm playing a pirate, and we're all like, oh, pirate prosthetics. Hondo, maybe? This movie, it really, even in this article, doubles down on how Skeleton Crew, space pirates, are going to kind of be the main antagonist. because they're able to thrive in this period where the Empire is dead and the First Order isn't in power and the New Republic is limited. So space pirates are going to be the big bads. So for one, Hondo's got to be in this show. I really feel like if he's not a surprise that they're sitting on for us, it's just another misstep. And I really do sadly have to start questioning Dave Filoni and if he actually knows what you do as the chief creative officer of Star Wars. But we did learn today that Jaleel White is not playing Kramer. He's Urkel from Family Matters. That's who Jaleel White is. I don't know how old you are, Michael. But if you were, born in the 80s or maybe very early 90s and TGIF was still a thing on Friday nights, Family Matters is where Jaleel made his day as, did I do that? That type of shit. It's probably on Nick at Night at this point in time. Like, that's how old I am. So, anyways, Nick, we learned today that Jaleel is not Hondo. Rather, he is playing a cyborg pirate named, and I hope they say it this way, Gunter, right? They should say Gunter, but I'm guessing they're going to say Gunter. Gunter, Gunter. And if you can see the picture here, we've got a better shot on our socials, but this is an official shot from Entertainment Weekly. We're fleshing out more of the pirate crew. We know of Vane from Mando Season 3. He's going to be a player. There's Gunter, Jaleel White. You got to like that the werewolf man, his name is Brutus. I think that's fantastic, right? Brutus.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Then I think the three eyes there is Pax.
Yeah,
and then it looks like a humanoid character kind of chopped off there is going to be Chout or Chalet or Shao. Who knows?
Chout, something.
But there they are. And this, I don't know. I mean, this is probably a generational thing for me. But if you played LucasArts games and you ever heard of Monkey Island, you understand George kind of had a hand in that. There was a lot of pirates. So John Watts kind of talked about the type of pirates he wanted in Skeleton Crew. And he said, listen, I'm also a big fan of Monkey Island. That's also classic Lucas. So somewhere between Star Wars pirates and Monkey Island pirates, I think we found our sweet spot. So that's what we're going to be looking for as the antagonist. Or, remember, Han was accused of being a pirate and he didn't take too friendly to it. It just like this show and what's going to happen to these kids, knowing how Hondo is used in Clone Wars and then in Rebels, does he not just seem like the perfect shady, neutral character to potentially work with them, but also maybe fuck them over?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that Hondo gets involved in this. And and the thing with Hondo is like he always kind of strays towards like good, even though he's gray.
Correct.
Like he always like ends up helping.
And he really had a soft spot for Ezra by the end.
Yeah. So I gotta imagine that if he like runs across these kids and their Jedi friend, he's probably going to be a sympathetic figure to them, trying to get back to wherever they're going. I'm sure he's going to
get something out of the deal, though. He's going to get something 100%. Out of the deal.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, this could be like you were saying, like the expanded pirate crew, since we already know Vane and like these are some of the other people that are associated with the group. But I 100% agree. If Hondo's not in the show, it's like it's like a very weird twist, because I mean, they know how important Hondo is because they literally made one of the most expensive Disney animatronics ever for Hondo.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, like, come on.
So
he is a dude. Like, Hondo is a dude. He's been around since Clone Wars, and he's had impactful interactions with the greatest of heroes. I mean, honestly, Nick, I'm kind of kicking myself that Hondo isn't on the fucking most important list. You never know. I mean, you never know. So hopefully it plays out that way. But like I said, I've given Dave the benefit for now, even though he's made some questionable decisions, most recently in Bad Batch Season 3. Like, oh, yeah, let's just fuck Commander Cody's fate. Who cares? The fans don't care about their named clones, so who gives a shit about Echo's final fate? It doesn't matter. We at least show them 3 clones in Rebels, so who cares? And the only other thing in this article was just another shot, and what a pimp shot of Jude Law there, man. But you got look, Nick, he almost has like a flintlock pirate pistol himself there tucked into his belt.
Yeah, I know. I do like that old school style pistol.
That jacket's badass. I mean, just he looks cool. We know he can use the Force, but we know he too is probably a little shifty, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I don't know if you had seen this, but did you see what Donald Glover said concerning the Lando
go ahead.
stuff?
Yeah, run with that.
Yeah,
I know Bespin Bulletin posted something on it, but he's saying it's still out there, right?
Yeah, it's still out there, but it's not like he didn't say anything disparaging. But so moving on from this, it's nice to see Jaleel White's character. But quick touch on this before we move into our tier list ranking. So Donald Glover was talking to I don't know who he was talking to. He was talking to somebody. He was talking to the Wall Street Journal about Star Wars and his upcoming Lando.
Star Wars is too serious.
Yeah, so he says, as Star Wars fan myself, I think it's important that there needs to be fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening, and those are the only things that connect us weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment, and I just feel like we're lacking in that department. Star Wars, I love it, but sometimes it can be super serious. Sometimes it be like way too serious. Everything that has to do with Skywalkers is like so serious. With Lando, I think the best part of him is he's a scoundrel, and I feel like people can relate to that. He's probably like, man, this war is whack. I need money, which I feel everyone can relate to. I want to bring fun to Star Wars. I just want it to be fun. So like I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I kind of know how I feel, but I want to see what your opinion is.
I wouldn't necessarily say Star Wars is too serious. I think its fandom has gotten way too serious, if anything, and it can't really handle any deviation from their headcanon gospel. I like what he's saying, but I also think he's just opening this project up to the fuckheads of the world. Because
this project is going to be like, if it even happens, like who knows?
Yeah, this is going to be, for theories bald ass to just sit there and tear apart because you're not allowed to have fun in Star Wars. So I'm all for it. I'd love to see what the guy does. I think he's a talent. I am with you. I don't think this shit's getting made. And if it does get made and it's real slappy and happy and scoundrelly and not serious, I think it's going to rub the ding-dongs the wrong way, like most things that Disney does. Yeah, I mean, just outside of like what those people think about Star Wars, because I don't really care because they don't like anything, I do tend to agree with him that like recently things have got like... The Bad Batch season 3 was like, dude, this is some animated bullshit. And like, it just felt like they were trying to be so serious with this story and failed in a way that was like almost embarrassing for the last 3 episodes. I do feel like with specific characters and specific styles of Star Wars, you should have more levity than like, I get it if you want to keep your like big screen stuff a little bit more on the serious side with like small bits of levity worked into it. I feel like that's a formula that has worked really well for Marvel in the past and worked well for Star Wars even during the time of like the OT and the prequel trilogy to a certain degree. But I do feel like in general, Star Wars has strayed more serious. Like Acolyte was a very seriously toned show that had like very, very small moments of levity, if any. Andor's the same way, that strays into the super serious tone type of situation. There was no humor in Andor.
Yeah, there was no humor. And people enjoyed it. Like people didn't come out to see it in droves, that's for sure. Like it was the lowest viewed show of all of them at the time of its release. And still is second lowest show watched. So I do think that he has a point. Like if you can pinpoint a character that you want to have fun with, I think Lando's the one, especially the era in which he will be playing Lando. I do think that they should have a little bit more fun with that. Like one of the reasons that I chose to show Solo first to Taylor was because I was like, even if you don't know anything about Star Wars, this movie is just fun to watch. Right. Like it's not like going to be super in your face about the Force. It's not going to be super in your face about all of the like this, like the political situation that's happening in the galaxy at the time, it's going to be fun. And it was like, that movie is still fun to watch. So I tend to agree with him that recently in Star Wars, we have gotten away from the levity a bit, but you have to find the right story to do it in. And I don't feel like they have been building stories for
his character is perfect for a lighter type of Star Wars. It can't just be a full on like comedy movie is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think you're going to get like slapstick Dumb and Dumber type of shit, but like, even if you got like, even like in here's
the diarrhea like scene in Star Wars. He spikes Chewie's.
Yeah, he just chewed all the peppers.
Okay, Chewie on the pot going, oh!
Yeah. But I think that a good comparison is Guardians 1. I tried to watch Guardians 3 and I just couldn't get through it. I was like, man, these like I know that people really like that one, but I was like, dude,
I thought 3 rebounded a bit.
Yeah, like I got like halfway through it and I'm like, dude, this is just like, it's just not for me.
Yeah,
but like,
just watch Deadpool Wolverine. That's all you really need to watch in this 2 phases we're in right now.
Yeah. But if he went with like a Guardians 1 feel for like a Lando project, I feel like that would be perfect.
Yeah, I got you.
Because like Guardians 1 had like good action moments of like serious tension between them and I can't even remember the fucking bad guy's name now. From that one, you had Nebula as a bad guy, but then you had like these really great moments of levity with the team. And I feel like that could be a formula that he kind of plays off of. So I'm looking forward to that.
Last thing on Donald here. Mm-hmm. And listen, you watch this at your own risk and do it in a safe place. But for the first time in my life, someone showed me his N-word, F-word spelling bee bit.
I have never seen that.
Oh my goodness, dude. Oh my goodness. It's comedy that could not exist today, which is sad. And I'm surprised Donald was not, posthumously canceled because of it. It's amazing. It is absolutely offensive as fuck, but super smart, well done. And if you stick with it to the end, it's just wow. I mean, it is wow. So like I said, I'm not sharing the link. I'm not even typing the shit into the chat. It's just the N-word, F-word Donald Glover bit. It's a spelling bee. Check it out if you're okay with pretty hardcore racist humor that's funny because of who's delivering it. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know when that came out. I hadn't even.
Oh, dude, it looks like it's recorded on VHS, but it is.
Okay, it's probably like way back in the day.
It is a fucking hoot. It is an absolute hoot. All right, man. Good stuff there. We always have fun our first hour of the show, kind of doing Ask Us Anything, going through some pop culture stops or news bits. But it's time to get into the meat of E326, and that is our most important Star Wars characters board. We've got 23 here. We're gonna battle it out, see where they land. Who's most important? Who's just important? Who's sort of important? Who's not really important? And then we even have a category, why are you even on this list? All right, so we'll see where people land. Are we going to have more than one up there at the top? Who knows? It'll come down to Nick and myself in our debate. And ultimately, is there going to be some push and pull, a little give? You never know. All right, everyone. B-Mad, listen, it's as good as this is going to sound so odd if someone chops up this soundbite, but it's like as good as racist humor gets. it's very well done, smart, will make you a bit uncomfortable, but you're going to laugh your ass off. Okay, so most important Star Wars characters of all time. Don't forget, everyone, the link is public. We'll go ahead and pop it in the live stream chat just in case you didn't get it yet. And you have all the way until tomorrow afternoon to fill it out, and we'll compare and contrast. But you just need to, who do you find to be an important character in Star Wars? And my guiding light was kind of, what was their overall contributions to their faction in the galaxy? Did they help progress their faction's cause? Did they help progress something? Were they a main contributor, or were they more on the sidelines? If this person disappeared, would the story of Star Wars or the galaxy have fundamentally changed? Okay, and we're starting with a fairly big one. We just kind of randomly throw them in here to our tier board. So we're kicking off with Grandmaster Yoda. You know, obviously, when it comes to importance, he's fairly important. He's led the Order for centuries. He's guided hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of Jedi in the Order. He kind of set the tone for the Order and how they act and how they're managed, how they execute missions, how they interact with the Senate and the rest of the galaxy. Obviously, he had some big failures, and being as important as was, those failures were pretty egregious and definitely played into the downfall of the Republic. He was responsible for training Count Dooku, Qui-Gon Jinn, and therefore their Jedi trains. So, you know, it sounds like an important character on paper, but what do you think, Nick? Is he extremely important? Middle of the road, or you find him, you know what, he was just kind of a roadblock and actually fucked shit up more than he helped?
Yeah, I think for me, I have him listed as a most important because he really did impact the galaxy. For like, he had as much impact on the galaxy as an individual can over hundreds of years. Like, he was alive during the High Republic. Like, we can even see his influence from even just the minimal bit that we saw him in the Acolyte, and then obviously the influence that he had all the way through, even through the sequel trilogy, like being there for Luke again to like teach him another lesson and everything like that. I think that like he definitely for me falls in that most important category because of like the amount of lives that he touched and like the important people that were around him.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, his coaching tree, his Jedi tree is probably the greatest of all time. So he had a huge impact on the Order, which in turn, you know, he definitely would have had an impact on the galaxy. I guess if Yoda didn't make it out of the prequel era, though, does the rebellion, do the twins, do they still have a chance to do what they do?
I don't think so. I think if Yoda gets killed, then it's just over, right? Because Obi-Wan Kenobi really can't pull himself out of his own bullshit.
Well, Yoda didn't do that for him, though. Bail Organa and young Leia did.
I still think that Obi-Wan would not have had the strength nor the like will to do it on his own. At least he knew that Yoda was alive, and at least they had a plan that they were working towards. Part of that plan being that like Yoda fucking told this dude, like, go to Tatooine, watch over this kid, and when he's the right age, fucking make it happen. Like, if Yoda would have crapped out, like, would Obi-Wan have done that by himself? Maybe. Like, maybe he would have.
I'll say this. But I'll let this be one of your passes. I'm not going to fight you on this, but I personally would not put Yoda at most important. I actually think he's kind of an asswipe that did more harm than good overall due to his hubris and ignorance.
It's not good or bad. It's impact.
Yeah, like I know. Like I said, I'm not fighting you, man. I'm putting there. He's up and most important. You got it. But that's your one freebie. I might go a little harder at the next one we don't agree on. All right, up next, and this one's kind of an oddball, and I'm proud of Nick for not slashing him off the list. But if you think about his overall importance, there's a reason we included this particular clone, and it is not Rex. We're talking about Fives, and the main reason he was even considered for this list is without Fives, you can argue the clones, therefore Rex, never figure out about the chips. Ahsoka gets taken out on that ship. And more clones stay brainwashed to keep wreaking the havoc on the galaxy after the fall of the Empire. So, you know, for the fact alone that he discovered the chips, got the message out, and it ultimately helped Rex save himself and therefore Ahsoka, he was pretty huge for his era. Now, you could argue if he never found out what may happen, would some Jedi still have lived? Well, yes, some did without help from clones. So I'm interested to hear where Nick is on Fives.
Yeah, I'm low on him. I'm like mid on him. I have him at sort of important, but I would almost put him at not important because he found out about the chip, but like ultimately like. Yeah, you save Ahsoka's life. I get like
it also helped the Bad Batch. Now that I remember that, it helped them nuke theirs.
Yeah, but I think that ultimately, like like what it comes down to is like that really kind of saves. Ahsoka's the biggest impact on that, and even her impact across the galaxy isn't that big. So I would maximum put him at sort of important, because the reality of the fact is like all these clones are going to get fucking nuked anyway, and like having like Rex make it to the end of ROTJ, like does that even matter? Probably not. Like they would just replace him with somebody like equally or better suited.
You're kind of making a case. I was going to agree with you at sorta, and I think that's where I put him on mine, but I think listening to you, Fives, you know what, pal? You're not important. You're just not that fucking important.
Because, and the thing is too, is like I guess one of the things that I'm taking into account too is like, would this information have been found out if that person didn't do it? And I think it would have anyway. Like the chip thing was gonna come out, and Fives was just the one to catch it, but it was gonna be like, you would either have like higher level people would have known about that anyway. You could have found out about that from the Kaminoans, from Nala Se. There was a lot of different information
we
sources.
Could argue if he was able to actually get that information out to clones en masse, and they essentially revolted against the Republic, maybe he goes up the chain a little bit, because that would have been a huge impact. Like if he got a broadcast out to the 3 or 4 million clones around the galaxy, he's like, hey guys, we're tweaked here, and we're supposed to kill the Jedi. Let's take care of this. Well, then we probably don't have the fall of the Jedi Order. Yeah,
if he would have done that, then definitely the importance factor goes up. But like, he finds out about the chips, and he tells 3 people.
Well, he gets they get onto him as soon as he tells the wrong people, essentially. I think they make him tell Sidious, or Palpatine.
He's like,
and then he gets stuck with Commander Fox and ultimately murdered. So, all right, I'm with you. Yeah. So this next one, I really was like, man, should we drop him? It's a droid. It's BB-8.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I was a BB-8 homer when he was first introduced, and especially after TFA, but like all things sequel trilogy, it eventually just pittered out, and he pretty much is doing nothing by the 3rd movie and not really relevant anymore. But if we want to recall his heroics and his contributions, just like you could argue for C-3PO and R2, he is what brings Rey into the galaxy, which is huge for that era. He also is the holder of the Luke's location from Lor San Tekka, and he is able to successfully deliver that to the Resistance so they can find his location. He clearly helps Poe during the beginning of The Last Jedi and his run on that dreadnought. But really, by the time he hits Tross, he becomes secondary and kind of falls off the face of the earth. He also saved Rose and Finn in TLJ from the Snoke's ship. So, the Rey stuff's pretty huge. You don't get her, you probably don't end up beating the First Order, and not finding Luke is also big. But that's really all BB-8 did.
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of like he's hard for me because he's in between sort of important. He could be anywhere from me from sort of important to why are you on this list, but because of the Luke stuff alone, like he's probably sort of important. And my question now is like, he didn't have that information. He was given that information by Lor San Tekka. So if Lor San Tekka gets killed, which he did, can somebody just go to that camp after and like search his body and be like, what is this device? Like this, can somebody find it? That
you would think so. I think he was like wearing it as a necklace or a charm or something.
Yeah. And so it's like, that's really the biggest one for me. So right now I'm between sort of important and not important.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I mean, for that, the path to Luke, but even more so the random encounter with Rey that sucks her into all of this, I think he gets himself sorta important.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
that makes sense.
I think he can get up to sorta. Sorry, Fives, you're gonna have to hang there by yourself and not important, loser. All right, sticking with the sequel trilogy characters, and we got kind of a split here. We got Ben Solo / Kylo Ren. You can evaluate them as the person as a whole and their final acts and some of their more devious acts. We know Ben Solo was a gifted Force user, clearly. He's got the jizz. He's got the Skywalker. But he was always troubled as a kid. You know, wanted more, didn't clash with his uncle. Ultimately went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Took down Luke's order, almost took out Luke, and really gave the First Order their badass, their heavy, their Force user, their Darth Vader, their Palpatine. So big. I mean, you could argue if Ben never falls, then Palpatine via Snoke doesn't have his tool to really kind of exert dominance on the galaxy. And then as Ben Solo, he helps Rey to defeat the Sith once and for all, and he brings her back to life. So fairly major contributions. I'm interested to see how important he is, though, Nick.
Yeah, I think that I think another big thing about him is that like he was essentially what caused the downfall of Luke Skywalker and his eventual,
100%.
Like, so like that's pretty huge.
Yeah, he's the one that more or less sends Luke into his cranky phase.
Yeah, I mean, so just in terms of like damage done to the light side, I mean, you could even say unintentionally, because fucking Luke was ready to chop this kid's head off before he even turned. Like he had mentally fucked up Luke to a point to where like there was a lot of like problems regardless of whether he would have turned or not. Literally was the Darth Vader of the First Order. Was the First Order's impact as big as the Empire's? No. Was it as long lasting as the Empire? No. So probably not going to rank up at the highest level, but I still say that he's important. Like, he helped to end, like you said, like he helped to end the Emperor once and for all. He wrought havoc across the galaxy for a period of time that was like pretty impactful. Like I mean, if you can help start a galactic civil war that persists and you're gonna win, you're pretty important. So I'm killed Han Solo. So I would say important. Yeah, I wouldn't say most, but I'd say important.
No, I agree. Like that, I think that's spot on. Good old Ben Kylo goes right there to the important level. All right, rewinding things, are a character that made 2 trilogies and his own series. We got Obi-Wan Kenobi, this time represented by Sir Alec Guinness, the OG Kenobi. I mean, this guy, look, lots of, in my opinion, he has made many contributions to the galaxy. One of his biggest, he kills Darth Maul twice. Okay, not one of his biggest, but pretty big accomplishment. One time as a Padawan, the next time as a very wise master. His biggest, you would have to think, is he was there to find Anakin Skywalker, and then he ultimately becomes his master. So he had a direct hand in training the Chosen One and shaping the Chosen One into hopefully someone that doesn't go around and murder little kids. He beat the Chosen One in hand-to-hand combat and had him dead to rights, but for some reason left him there to suffer on the banks of Mustafar. After that, we know he, along with Yoda, helped to save the twins. He went into hiding to watch over Luke. We now know that he was also tasked by the Organas to go out and save young Leia from the Empire. And through Qui-Gon Jinn, he learned the magic of ghost form, which was what gave him the power he needed over Vader and the dark side to really shape Luke into the Jedi Knight that could take down the Sith. So he had a direct hand in forming Luke. He had a direct hand in saving Leia and allowing her to do what she did throughout her lifetime. And, outside of not stabbing Anakin in the skull on the banks of that Mustafar lava river, he's done some pretty important shit, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely up there as most important for me. I think that, it seemed like there were plans for more of a Kenobi story for the sequel as well, because we got that line whispered by Ewan when Rey first finds the Skywalker family saber, like, these are your first steps, Oh yeah. It seemed like there was a little bit more there, but even without the sequel trilogy, he's still most important. I mean, he he was the master to Anakin Skywalker, who ultimately becomes Darth Vader and has a massive impact on the galaxy. He was the pseudo master to Luke Skywalker, who redeems the galaxy and saves it. Works with basically is a part of every big event in both the prequel and original trilogies, whether it be alive or in ghost form. I think the dude is he's everywhere all the time up until the end of the original trilogy. So I think I would put him at most important.
I mean, hell, he was the soundtrack to Luke's head as Luke's blowing up the Death Star. You could argue without Obi-Wan kind of talking him down and not relying on targeting computers that Luke would have missed. Right? His eye would not have been on the target.
Yeah, 100%.
Eyes on target. All right, I'm with you, man. I'll put Kenobi up there in that most important level. I'll look at him. He's with his little other depressed Jedi buddy, Yoda. They're up there feeling sorry for themselves for failing the entire galaxy. Just know that you guys are important for failing. You sons of bitches. All right, we got another droid here. Not as impactful as his little short astromech friend, but you could argue he still had some big moves, especially in the sequel trilogy. People might have forgot. We're talking about none other than the Professor, a.k.a. Goldenrod, C-3PO. You can argue that he is a reluctant passenger on every mission he went on. He more or less kept R2-D2 busy and always needed babysat, and when he wasn't being babysat by R2, he was ridiculing R2-D2. Outside of being a protocol droid and helping his humans understand other languages or process odds, his most major contribution, I would argue, are twofold. Becoming the god of the Ewoks and helping with Luke's help to not have our heroes be, eaten. And then in TROS, he is essentially reprogrammed to read in his Sith form to figure out the location of the other dagger and therefore leading the heroes to the fallen Death Star. So that was probably his most important contribution, because outside of that, he's just kind of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in why are you even on this list? Just because, he really is, there for the comedic relief most of the time. He's there to be this neurotic drag along.
That's why he's so good in Rebuild the Galaxy. What they turn him into, it's ridiculous. He becomes a bounty hunter.
That's great.
With the red eyes.
But yeah, I mean, I do think that ultimately everything that he did that was important could have been done by somebody else. I don't even think that the Ewoks were super interested in him because he's a gold robot, but I think that Luke Skywalker could have fucking made one of these dudes, one of the Ewoks float, and they would have been okay, well, let's not fuck with these people.
Good point.
And then the translator thing, I really do feel they could have just taken fucking any robot and did that. They could. I know, they did it to him, but I do feel there are other methods.
Yeah. So I mean, what are you thinking, man? I mean, is he going to go hang out with fives, or is he the first green list?
He's green. He's why are you even on this list? Because realistically, there's nothing that he did that was altering or changing. He really was just kind of there as a companion. I mean, he didn't even really help with the fucking Falcon repairs.
No, he just bitched and moaned about it.
Yeah, he literally.
I'm melting. I'm melting. He's such a bitch.
More often than not, he's a hindrance.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? You're right. You're right. On my personal list, I don't think I put anyone in the why are you on this list, but you are correct. C-3PO.
I have two.
See ya, pal.
So we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, another traveling companion of Goldenrod, a much furrier travel companion. He's lived a long life. He's still living, in fact, at least by the end of the sequel trilogy. And we're talking about the Bacca, Chew, that is. So Chewbacca, let's go. I mean, he's been around for hundreds of years. We talked about this in his hero list. He's fought in the Clone Wars. He's fought in the Rebellion. He's fought with the Resistance. Yes, he is a scoundrel. Yes, he kind of made his due with Han, smuggling shit, sometimes from the Empire. So you could argue that's good. But you could argue he's the one that convinced Han to come back in the Battle of Yavin, which actually helped save Luke and achieve the goal of blowing up the Death Star. Just for his power and muscle alone, he's always good in the fight and has always helped them in battle, both in ship and on the land. But outside of being a good pilot and a good friend and a heavy, I'm kind of struggling with his overall importance to the galaxy. So Nick, figure it out for us.
Yeah, he's hard to figure out. I have him listed as sort of important because he really is like the perfect support player to that group. Like, if I feel like if Chewbacca wasn't around, then like Han Solo would have just been like, fuck you guys, I'm taking my money, I'm out of here. Luke Skywalker's possibly dead, maybe. Like he has been around and been a key part of a lot of different plans. And because he is useful, unlike C-3PO, like him being a good pilot and helping Han like pilot through the Maelstrom and complete the Kessel Run and Solo, like he, obviously was a part of basically he was a part of the plan to free Han Solo from Jabba's palace and RTJ. Like he has some stuff under his belt. He's just never the main player. So I would put him at sort of important because I really do feel like he's kind of the glue to that group.
Right.
And if it wasn't for him, then a lot of shit probably would have gone wrong. He's also apparently the only fucking person on the planet that can fix the Falcon in the OT because nobody else can do
forgot about the mechanic skills that they would have been trapped on Hoth if it's not for him.
100%. So I would put him at sort of important.
All right. Yeah, I can get down with that. I'm not going to put the Wookiee down with 5, so he can hang out there with BB-8. It sounds about right. He definitely is a master chef too, right? We forget about that.
Yeah.
The guy can cook a mean Thanksgiving porg.
That's right. He's got those pork cooking skills.
Yep. Okay. This is going to be a big one here. Who knows if this goes long or short in this debate, but we are talking about the guy, Anakin / Vader. Even got a great image from the comic when the comics were actually good. You really don't need to go in on this one. I mean, the guy literally is called the Chosen One, and even though he fucks it up early on in his life and causes the downfall of the Republic and millions of people being murdered and oppressed and wiping out the Jedi Order, in the end, he does kind of circle things back thanks to his son and pretends to kill the Emperor and returns to the light. I mean, Darth Vader Anakin is one of the most impactful, if not the most impactful Star Wars characters. So, Nick, I'd like to hear any argument to the contrary.
Yeah, I don't think that there is one. Like the whole, all of the 9 Star Wars movies are just all about Anakin Skywalker. Like the period, straight up. Even the sequels, like. The reason that fucking Kylo turns to the dark side is because he's obsessed with his grandfather. Like the obsession with his grandfather leads him to fall to the dark side. Like Luke's Luke understanding that his father is the one that is influencing his nephew and causes the downfall of the New Republic in that time period. Like it really is just like, it's unquestionable that he is the most important character in the Star Wars universe, period, straight up. Like there's nobody more important than Anakin Skywalker in at least the 9 movies and all of the interstitial content.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this one, we would be straight up trolls if we dropped him to anything less than most important. It's literally... The story of Star Wars is Anakin Darth Vader. It is. I mean, that's just listen to George Lucas. He's on record a million times. It's about Anakin's story. The original trilogy is, the prequel is, and the sequel is the sequel.
I mean,
sequel's the sequel. What are you gonna do?
He's as involved as he could be as a dead person.
To this day, Nick, I still can't believe that me, one of the bigger prequel haters back in the day, I'm fixed now. I'm down with it. Can say with full confidence that the sequel trilogy is the worst trilogy. It is. It kills me because TFA had so much juice, and then we just lit that shit on fire. So it is a bummer, man. It is a bummer.
All right.
Well, hey, League,
next?
we will let you have that take. League saying from the female perspective, I always thought the Skywalker saga was always Leia's story. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that when she's not involved in the first three, like in the prequels, and neither is Luke. Like Luke isn't involved, so it's hard for me to say that either of them could have, like, the Skywalker saga could be about them because they're just not involved in 1/3 of it.
That's also a good point, Nick. That's why we pay you the big bucks to remind us all.
And like, I will say that Leia is probably, you could say it's more of a Leia story than a Luke story, even though she's the second lead in the original trilogy. She plays a much bigger role in the sequel.
She definitely wasn't a whiny little asshole like her brother. We know that for sure.
That is very true.
All right, here's a fun one. I've been trying to get this guy in for the past few tier lists or rank offs, and he just didn't quite make sense. But he made the cut here. Nick didn't slash him, so I know Nick's excited. But we were talking about the creator, the designer, the mind behind the Rule of Two, Darth Bane. And Nick, honestly, you're going to have to be the setup guy on this one. So go ahead, give us some, make a case.
He is 100% not important. You want to know why? Because he institutes his Rule of Two and nobody fucking follows it.
Good point.
Like,
good point.
The only, so here's what happens. Darth Bane is a part of a giant Sith Order, and the giant Sith Order is in a war against the giant Jedi Order and blah, 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 endless war, all the same bullshit. So Bane just decides, like, and here's the thing is, like, Bane decides himself, he's like, you know what, this isn't working, so I'm just gonna kill everybody. And he does. He just kills all of the Sith.
That's why I kicked to you, man, because I mean, outside of like watching random YouTube long videos on him, I don't quite have a full grasp on his contribution. Yeah. So are you putting him down there with C-3PO then? He's not.
I would put him as not important because, like, he still did something. Like he instituted this Rule of Two, but like, if you know anything about the Sith that came after him, they never adhered to it. Like, did they ever build up like an order that size again, like it was during the Brotherhood of Darkness time period? No, like they didn't do that again. But like, all of them had multiple apprentices. All of them had, you know, there were multiple instances of there being multiple apprentices for both the master and the apprentice. Like, the only thing that the Rule of Two prevented was like a group of Sith getting together and be like, let's rebuild an order again. Okay. Like, let's just have 1,000 Sith. All right. So like, ultimately, I don't think he was important because while like you could argue that killing all of those Sith eventually led to 1,000 years later or over 1,000 years later, like the Sith taking over the galaxy again, that probably would have happened anyway. Like, it's just the cycle of like, all that shit is cyclical, and like eventually the Sith would have come out on top again anyway. I mean, they had in the past.
All right. Like I said, it wouldn't take a lot of convincing for me. So homie, Bane is in not important. All right, yeah. We're leaving poor Goldenrod down there in the wire.
I want Bat to tell me one thing that C-3PO actually did.
Besides make us laugh because he was such a puke R2-D2. All right, well, while Bat's thinking that out, let's move on to another big one here. We're talking about the Sheevster, Mr. Palpatine, a.k.a. Darth Sidious. The guy is a mastermind. I mean, he started training at a young age with Darth Plagueis, learned about the Rule of Two, learned about how Sith may have the potential to save those they love from dying. Grand master plan, the downfall of the Republic, and actually slow burn the motherfucker so perfectly he pulled it off and was able to even live past his perceived death to start some more shit after the perceived fall of the Empire. He was able to suck in the Chosen One, which allowed him to take out the Jedi Order. Like I said, he orchestrated the Clone Wars, orchestrated Order 66, the downfall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire. Fairly important guy in my mind, but what does young Nick have to say about the Sheevster?
He's most important for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally the only villain throughout most of the Skywalker saga, even going back to the prequels all the way through the sequels. Like, he's the only villain. Like, he's the main villain through the whole fucking thing. Like, the CIS war was a misdirect that was orchestrated by him. He made the clones and implanted them with chips for Order 66. Like, he was the Emperor of the Empire. He was Snoke and everybody else in the fucking sequel trilogies. Like, he's the most important guy because he's the worst guy. He is the ultimate villain in Star Wars for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's no debate here. He's an instant to the top, most important. So he's joining Yoda, Kenobi, Anakin, Vader, and now himself. So just to recap, if you're just tuning in now, we are going through and we are determining the most important Star Wars characters. And so far, our most important are Yoda, Kenobi, Vader, and Sheev. Okay, moving on. Here's another big one. I also think that this isn't much of a debate, but you never know. Nick has pulled out some good points that I never consider. So we're talking about the bucket of bolts, the blue and white astromech, the savior of Padme, the savior of C-3PO, the savior of pretty much the entire original trilogy cast multiple times, R2 fucking D2.
Yeah, I have him ranked as important because he's just constantly saving the good guys. And that's the thing, is like, his impact is really not that felt that much, because it's just that, like, he saves the squad. And like, your question is like, would the squad have been saved anyway? Like, is there a way that they could have lived even if R2-D2 didn't stop the trash compactor, or even if R2-D2 didn't get the shields back up on the shuttle when they're leaving Naboo? Like, that's really his big two, right? Like, he saves them in the trash compactor. He saves them with the shield. So it's like, he's important. I'm between sort of important and important, because I don't know how much, like, how impactful that is. Like, yeah, he saved everybody's lives, which is super impactful, but like, he only really did it a couple times. So I'm like in between important and sort of important.
Yeah, it's just, you can almost do the chicken and egg thing with R2-D2, especially with his Naboo save. Like, I mean, if that shit blows up and we lose Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Padme, is that it? Like, is there, since the Skywalkers will never be born, the Chosen One will never be found, or at least not by good guys, what happens there? So that is like the one thing I was kind of hanging on. Like, does that bump him up the most important? But there's a lot of what ifs. So I think we're good keeping R2 as important.
Yeah, I think important is the right level. I don't think that, like, if you look at who's in most important right now, that he makes sense next to those characters. Like, his impact, while he's like, again, like, he's always around. He's
reactionary, Nick, where these people are purposeful. You know, they're kind of planning what they do. For the most part.
They're much more like wide reaching too. Like, the impact of the characters and most important are felt beyond just like, you know, like, oh, you saved these guys' lives, and yeah, because you saved these guys' lives, they can go on to do stuff like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and you know,
that's what I mean. He's tough because you can do the chicken and egg thing with him constantly. Like, well, if R2 doesn't save him, do they actually go on and do their heroics, or does someone else pick up? But
that's the thing.
The
is like just because he, like, then you could say like, oh well, you know, like, anybody who saved the main character is most important then.
Hey,
but like,
I got you. Just for the sake of time, we're gonna keep moving. So up next, Galen Erso. Clearly, he's got one major contribution, and that is building the fault into the Death Star, and then getting that information to his daughter, which in turn allows the Rebel Alliance to get that data, and they do eventually blow up the Death Star. Now, it doesn't stop the Empire a single bit, but it does take out their big weapon that they literally spent 2 decades and a shit ton of credits to make.
Yeah. And then they rebuild it 3 years later. So this may be my most controversial take. I have him on why are you even on this list? Because realistically, like they're like, oh, this guy built a fault into it, so it just makes it easy for us. So if we get this, then it makes it way easier for us. But realistically, like they were gonna find a way to fucking destroy this thing anyway. Like they like the story of it was not gonna be like. I mean, I just feel like with anything, nothing is built perfectly, even if it doesn't have a flaw built into it on purpose. Like anything that exists right now or in any like conceivable universe will have a fault with it. Like whether it be a time fault, whether it be a mechanical fault, whether it be an infiltration fault. Like we saw them literally infiltrate the Death Star and turn off the fucking shield generators. Like that had nothing to do with this port being there. So like there's multiple different ways that this could have been done. This was just the most surefire way for it to get done. And I feel like if he's not there and it didn't build it in, do you think the rebels would have just been like, well, we don't have a freebie, so I guess we're just fucked. Like we just don't do anything.
All right, let's do it. Galen, eat shit, pal. You're hanging out with Goldenrod down there in the bottom of the list, my friend. Be mad, yes. The droids were kind of the point of view characters for the original trilogy, for sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily give them any more importance, but that's how George used them as literary characters.
Yeah. I mean, you could use a fly on a wall as a point of view character for a conversation. Correct. That doesn't mean that they're an important part of it. So, all
right, Nick, we put his co-pilot in sorta important.
Yeah.
You know, Han Solo, listen, he is kind of a reluctant hero, both in real life, his actor, and his character in the series. You could argue he would never have come back if it weren't for wanting to get in Leia's pants. He kind of bumblefucks most of the things he's involved in. He actually takes Rebel Alliance resources away from them at an important time by getting his ass, kind of captured on Bespin and frozen in carbonite. On Endor, he kind of bumblefucks that, eventually blows up the shield gens. But outside just being a cool dude, someone for, Luke to buddy up with and someone for Leia to flirt with, I wouldn't say Han Solo had a ton of importance outside of producing the next dark side lord that takes over the galaxy.
Yeah, I have him listed as sort of important right now. I mean, he has the big save on Luke in A New Hope. He's the ground commander, like whether he's good at it or not, he's the head of the ground forces in ROTJ on Endor, like you mentioned. So he is put in a place of importance, whether it be reluctantly or whatever. Like he has a lot of deeds that, like, he took down the shield generator, like you mentioned. He saved Luke during the trench run. He is essentially he's the reason why the hyperspace fuel gets to the rebellion at the end of Solo, because he doesn't churn. He makes sure that happens. So stays on the up and up there. I did forget
about that. That's a good point.
And like you said, he gives birth, he is the father of Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, who then fucks up the galaxy for a bit there. So I would put him in sorta important, not important. Because he does have some deeds that he himself did. And
even you could argue, even his final act, where he goes and tries to emotionally connect with his son, you could argue that because Kylo kills him and he really didn't want to, he thought it's what he needed to do, he kind of broke Kylo.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well.
He prevented Kylo from achieving his ultimate goal.
Yeah, he was also in the only, I guess you would call it like non-force user force vision that's ever happened, like
Yes.
comes to his son at a very important moment and really
He's
like,
still just sort of, so I like that one there.
yeah.
All right, well, hey, I mean, another scoundrel. We just talked about his younger self a few segments ago when we were referencing Donald Glover's new quotes on the Lando project. So Lando, we're looking at the old one here, but we're going to evaluate his career, which again has been even more reluctant than Han Solo. If you've read the comics, it's like as reluctant as it gets. At one point in time, he was on trial to be killed by the Rebel Alliance because of how much shit he did to them right after Empire Strikes Back. So really his biggest thing outside of helping save Han would be kind of being the tip of the spear on the Battle of Endor. And that move he did at the Battle of Teneb, which we'll never know about. And then clearly in Tross when he kind of goes out and rallies the galaxy's fleet to come join the battle in the skies of Exegol. So what are you thinking for Lando? Is he kind of like his buddies, higher or less than on the importance scale here?
I would probably put him at not important is what I have him listed as now. Like all of the things that he does personally could have been done by somebody else. And really he was just in the position that he was in purely based off of circumstance. And like Han Solo being like, yeah, I guess he's my friend. Like, I feel like the Death Star 2 stuff, like any other pilot could have ran that. Like you could have given
I mean, let's be real.
To anybody.
Yang Yang was the one really. The co-pilot's usually the one doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, so I would put him at non-important. Like he's a cool character. He has a lot of he has cool moments, but I feel like that fleet's going to Exegol regardless of whether that dude's there or not.
Okay.
Like, and the run on Death Star 2 is happening whether he's there or not. Like I feel like he's that probably not important.
Okay. I can get behind that. Like, I do think he is a tier below Han and Chewie. Just because I mean, I know the comics are tainting me, but he literally did not want to be a rebel. Did not. And kind of screwed them pretty early on. Okay, I'm assuming is going to be another easy one. We're talking about one of the twins, Princess Leia, even more so than her brother, has always been on the right side of history, has always been fighting for people's rights, for freedom. I mean, even as a kid, we saw her doing stuff. As a teen in Rebels, we saw her doing stuff for the Rebels. And then, obviously, what we saw her do throughout the original trilogy and sequel, she is the leader of the rebellion. Mon Mothma's a fucking figurehead. Leia's the one out there on the ground, in the fleets, fighting in space, fighting, on Hoth, so on and so forth. Her beauty brings in Han Solo and Chewbacca, so you get kind of an added boost from those two yahoos. And, she's also just as strong in the Force as her brother, father. And she's just all around awesome. I mean, she's always kind of been the beacon. She's, like I said, been born to, like her mother, to fight for what is right. So Princess Leia literally has been doing it since she shot out of Padme's vagina.
Yeah, I mean, she's most important for sure. I mean, she is like that. She's never really used. I mean, she used the Force once, I guess, in the 9 movies or so. Like, she's not a Force user. Typically, you would imagine that your most important characters are going to be Force users, but I would say she's most important because she is literally
politics, Nick.
Yeah. Like she is the life of the rebellion. She is the life blood that gives birth to the New Republic. She's the leader of the resistance. She is one of the leaders of the rebellion. She is the ultimate good in the Star Wars galaxy. Like you said, more so than Luke Skywalker, like more so than Yoda, more so than Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like she is the heart of what Star Wars is about.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, in Rebuild the Galaxy, every major character has a slight shift in their personality once they take out the cornerstone, except Leia. She drives a different ship. It actually looks like her son's ship, which was a funny nod, but she still is even-keeled. She's fighting against the Empire. So, yeah, man, she's always good, always knew what to do, and was always willing to put herself on the line. So she's 100% up there with Daddy Dearest. All right, he's easily one of my favorite characters. Definitely one of my top 3 villains. Maul. All right, I mean the guy. He was a Sith apprentice. He killed Qui-Gon Jinn. He went toe-to-toe with Kenobi and lived, even though he got cut in half. After getting cut in half, he became a thorn in the side of both the Republic and the CIS, and therefore Sidious, through training with Savage and taking over the Crimson Dawn and really the criminal underworld for a good spot of time. He knew more than even the Jedi when it came to the rise of the Sith and what Palpatine's real plans were. He knew Anakin was the key. And he actually tried to convince Ahsoka, like, no, you and I need to stop this, and then we can kind of be the leaders. But then he gets a little crazy over his obsession for Kenobi and kind of starts to lose his mind, and his only focus becomes getting revenge. So he kind of pitters out at the end. But early on, he was definitely a Nick, I think the best way to describe Maul is he's a chaos agent.
Yeah, I'm stuck on Maul between important and sort of important.
I think that's fair.
His impact is, like, if you look at the time that he was alive, like he was, just basically around through the prequels and really like doesn't make it into the OT, like dies at, in the sands before the OT really kicks off. So limited time run. His impact in terms of how it's like felt even by the people who are the most important, like he didn't seem like he was enough of a nuisance for them to actually do anything about him, right? Like they know he's alive, like Sidious knows he's alive, and it's just like, whatever, like I'm just not, like I don't care, like he's not gonna bother me that
even
much.
when he beat them down, all he did was lock Maul up. He didn't kill Maul.
Yeah, he's like, dude, like whatever. Like
we used to be bros, man. We used to be bros.
It was just like he more than anything, he was an annoyance. The only people that he wasn't an annoyance to was the Mandalorian people, and then obviously like,
oh yeah, if you gotta forget, he takes over Mandalore too.
Yeah, and the thing is though, it's like he takes over Mandalore at a time where like the Mandalorians aren't doing shit anyway.
Right.
Like they're not helping anybody. Like they have become insular. Like they insulated themselves from the galaxy, so it's not like the Mandalorians were actively helping, the rebels or anything
you're right.
else.
I mean, honestly, Nick, hear me out here. I think in hindsight, we could argue Maul's most important act was killing Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah,
if he doesn't kill Qui-Gon, you could argue Anakin doesn't go goofy, and we don't have the fall of the Jedi.
Yeah, and I'll have a controversial take on Qui-Gon too, but like I put Maul at sorta important. That's kind of where he feels like he's best to me.
Through our conversation here, I agree. He goes to sorta. All right, this could be another quick one. You never know. You never know on the twins, but obviously we're talking about the other one here, the one with the nutsack, Luke Skywalker. He was a slow starter, okay? There's a reason for that. Obi-Wan didn't really trust him clearly and just kind of kept a watchful eye. I think they were probably always a little more concerned about Luke. Maybe it's some misogyny, you never know, but it's like they didn't want to start him too early, or they didn't want him to go too late because they didn't want him to end up like his dad. But anyways, he eventually gets his shit together, and after he sees that his aunt and uncle are killed, he's like, you know what, Obi-Wan, you're right. I think I will take you up on that adventure now and try to get mixed up in the galaxy events and all the shit that's going on. And once he does that and starts training with Obi and then Yoda, he definitely becomes a major force in the galaxy. Literally, he takes down the Death Star. He goes toe-to-toe with Darth Vader when he barely can even do anything, trying to save his friends, even though he fails and Han gets caught anyways. And then, as we know in episode 7 or 6, he achieves the goal of defeating Darth Vader, but also he goes above and beyond what his masters want him to do. He doesn't kill him. He actually saves him and brings Anakin back to the light. Luke then goes on from there, becomes a master himself, tries to restart the order. It fails due to his nephew, and then he cuts himself off from the Force for multiple decades and becomes a cranky asshole.
Yeah.
But his final act, and they even bring this up in the show when they're trying to convince Alt Luke to join the fight. He's like, no, hold on, let me get this straight. I kill my dad. I save the galaxy, but then the galaxy screwed up again. I almost kill my nephew. I get really cranky, and then when I finally do decide to rejoin the good guys, I die because I used the Force too hard. It's like he's like, yeah, no thanks. So
yeah, I mean,
look, listen, Luke, what do you think, man? Does he get to go up there, or is he just important?
Yeah. No, he's most important. He like, regardless of whether we would like it to be like this or not, he's the only like legendary hero of Star Wars. Like, correct. Like
the little kids in TLJ at the end, they had their little Luke figure against the First Order. I mean, he really was that beacon of hope. He did such mind-boggling, out of this galaxy type of things that people couldn't even process him. Like Nick said, I mean, he became an instant legend. Like Luke Skywalker, the guy that blew up the Death Star. Holy shit! Like,
yeah, you know, like there were stories told about him. You know, you could say the same thing about Han and Leia as well. Like all three of them really in the sequel trilogy seem like they were legendary status in terms of their impact on the
Luke's
universe.
Still sort of, though. We're not moving. I mean, Han's still sort of. We're not moving.
Yes, Han is still sort of for sure. But Luke, I mean, like you said, you could say that he kills Darth Vader and redeems Anakin Skywalker from a certain point of view. Nod to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He saves takes out Death Star 1. He saves the Resistance from total annihilation in TLJ.
Yep.
He
gets Rey to get back on track in TROS.
Yeah, like gets her, kind of puts her back on the right path there. I mean, I think that he's most important because he is the one. Like he's the closest that we have to a Neo figure in Star Wars, right? Like
he's already up there, man. You convinced me. Not that you needed to. He was always going to be the most important. All right, sticking with a Force user here. We actually got a lot of Force users in a clip coming up, and we're going to start with the Count, Mr. Dooku. Obviously, he plays a major role back in the prequels. He aligns with the Sith, and he helps to orchestrate and execute the Clone Wars. He becomes the figurehead of the CIS. He recruits Grievous, trains Grievous. He cuts off Anakin's arm. He is the one that orders up the clone army. I know, again, it's by orders, but he kind of takes care of, he executes Palpatine's plans. Palpatine's masterminding everything from the shadows. Dooku was the one to carry it out and actually kick off the Clone Wars and eventually the fall of the Republic.
Yeah, this one, he's hard for me because I really have him between sort of important and not important.
I think, I think that's fair.
Like, I really do feel like anybody could have done his job. Like it would have had to been another
disenfranchised Jedi, I think.
Yeah. But I feel like if they were probably a dime a dozen back then. Like he wasn't the only like Jedi who had some doubts about the Order. And I feel like if Palpatine would have picked a different one to do his magic on, then it would have been It would have been that guy. I'll put it at sort of important because he was responsible for like you said, recruiting Grievous.
He also trained Qui-Gon Jinn.
Training Qui-Gon, training Asajj Ventress. Like these are some, again, like I would say like the people that I named are relatively important. They're not like that important. Like, so I'll put him at sorta just because he was the Sith apprentice for like a few years. Mm-hmm. Like he had some impactful, like definitely impactful on the galaxy because he was the figurehead of this war and was looked at as like, if we want to stop the war, we have to stop this guy. And like ostensibly that did happen when they killed, like when Anakin killed Dooku, like the war.
Yeah, I mean, he got a lot of Jedi dead, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I'll put him at sort of important, but he definitely was he was more of like a like a bag man.
Yeah, it makes sense. He's going up
Palpatine.
there with his predecessor to Palpatine, Maul. So, the discarded Palpatine apprentices are chilling and sort of important. All right, Nick, I'm going to let you run with this one because you already teased. You've got some thoughts for our next character. We're sticking with Force users here. We just talked to them about being the trainee, the Padawan of Count Dooku, the master of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the finder of the Chosen One, and the cheater of chance cubes, Qui-Gon Jinn. Okay, I mean, really, his big thing here, at least what we saw on screen, is he finds the Chosen One, he cheats, and takes him out of slavery, and demands him to be trained in the ways of the Force, which, due to his unfortunate passing, leads to the rise of Darth Vader and the fall of the light side of the Force. Yeah,
so in terms of importance, like you said, it's really one thing, and ultimately that one thing really fucking sucked for the galaxy as a whole. Like, if he didn't find Anakin Skywalker, like,
dude's still working in Watto's shop.
I would say shit would have been a lot better for the galaxy for sure, for like 100%. So I have him at sorta important because he trained, like he was the master to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Here's one other note to see if you would bump him up one level. I'm not hating sorta, but one other major contribution. Qui-Gon Jinn is the one that figured out how to become one with the Force, and therefore he is the one that enabled Obi-Wan to stay kind of alive and present with Luke, and then ultimately Yoda and the Jedi after them. So that's a fairly important thing for at least the Jedi. But
I will say that he rediscovered it because
he didn't invent it, but I mean, Yoda's ass was sitting around for hundreds of years at the head of the fucking order and didn't figure the shit out. So I mean, like, other Jedi had known how to do that, other Sith knew how to do that. Like, it wasn't something that was like really that elusive. Like, the more you go into like the past, it's like, why is it that they didn't know how to do that when so many other people did? Like, did that like page in a book get ripped out or something? Like, why does nobody know? Whip their crayons out and scribble all over
something like that. I mean, like, I wouldn't mind putting him at important, but it just feels like,
don't worry, man. Don't get yourself stressed out. I threw him in sort of important. He's there. He's there.
He seems like a one trick kind of guy.
Okay, fair enough. Another Force user here. Ahsoka Tano, Padawan of Anakin. You could argue she gave him some humanity. Even when he was Vader, they're fighting the rebels. I mean, once she cracked his mask, you could tell it meant something to him, even though he was convinced that he still had to kill her. What she did with the rebels and Ezra, what she did on with the Martez sisters, what she did for Mandalore, what she did with Rex. She was one of the early ones that was ready to rebel against the rise of the Empire. But, like Jedi do, especially if they hang out with Skywalkers, she went ahead and kind of broke herself a bit when she found out that Anakin was indeed Darth Vader. And as we learned through her series, she kind of was cutting herself off and limiting herself and blaming herself and worried that she could become a monster just like her former master. She helped... Not really helped, but she made it to a new galaxy. But she failed in stopping Thrawn from returning. So overall, for like overarching major galactic events, Nick, I can't say Ahsoka
not a lot of wins.
Had a big hand in a big hand in a lot of the movement or the happenings of the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I have her at sorta important because she does, like, her most impactful time period was when she was behind the scenes as like working with the rebellion.
Yeah.
Like that's just like her most important time period. And to be honest with you, I really feel like that role could have been filled by other people.
You didn't need a Force user, and we learned that ultimately the Fulcrum persona
just shifts,
moves to Callus or whatever his name is.
Yeah, moves to Callus. So like she's and I don't want people to think that I don't think that Ahsoka is cool, but like Ahsoka's cool, and like she is.
Bro, there's a lot of cool characters in Sorta, so we can't feel too bad.
But like I almost feel like she's more not important than she is sort of important because like really what the fuck has she done? Like she like what has she done that's truly impactful? Like you said, she like made it to another galaxy, but like that wasn't even her. Like other people found the way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, League is going to be upset when she listens to this.
I mean, 100% she's going to be upset, but in terms of
you are making valid points.
Like, bro, she just hitched the ride. Like,
I don't think in good conscience though I can put her with Lando, Fives, and Bane.
I definitely understand. Like she helped the rebellion a lot. Like she was a good friend to Anakin, I guess. Like once they got on Peridia, also not that useful.
She freed the town on Corvus from Morgan Elsbeth.
Yeah, there you go. Like
she got intel on Thrawn and tried to alert the New Republic that he was still around.
Yeah.
You know what, man? Remember I said I was going to save one because of the Yoda thing? I'm going to pull Ahsoka up to sort of important. I can't put her down there with those chumleys.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with it. I mean, it definitely, like, it's hard when you think about Ahsoka, because when you think about Ahsoka, you're just like, I love this character.
She's such a fan favorite, but if you really get granular with her, overall importance starts to lack a bit.
Yeah, it's like if Anakin has a different apprentice, like how different does it go? Right. Probably not that different.
And like, I feel horrible talking all this shit about our Lady in Orange, but Nick is right. Okay. Yeah. Well, the last of our not the last of our Force users, but of that line there, and it's Ezra, and Ezra, if we compare him to Ahsoka, he has a huge contribution as a young teen, and that is sacrificing himself to remove Thrawn and his Chimera from the playing field. And we talked about this during our hero ranks. Like if Thrawn stays, the rebellion's pretty much toast. They have no chance. They're not going to mount any Death Star run. They're not even going to be able to get the Scarif. Because he would know better. So that is, Ezra clearly has a very, very major contribution through the removal of the Grand Admiral. Outside of that, though, because he had to take himself off, you can argue, he's important just for his sacrifice, but he more or less disappears for the next, decade, 15 years until we find him again on Peridia. And yes, with the help of Sabine and Ahsoka, he does get himself back to the known galaxy, but overall they failed their mission of stopping Thrawn. Yeah. So he had a big win. His ladies came and they all kind of failed there.
Rested on his laurels. I feel like he could have done something on Peridia. Something.
Well, yeah, I remember that. Nick was always pissed during the series. He's like, so this guy was just fucking hanging out with the turtle people the whole time and didn't try to do shit to Thrawn.
He really didn't try to do anything. Like I don't know. Maybe he tried to do something and it didn't work out and he's like, oh, well, fuck it. Like, I don't know. But he's got a big win. I would I'm leaning towards sort of important because the big win is the only thing that he has. Mm-hmm. Like more often than not, he was like an annoying teenager to everybody who was in Phoenix Squadron.
Yeah, there's some story to tell. Like we're gonna get some finality, hopefully, to Ezra in Ahsoka season 2. But
yeah, and if he does, he still has room for movement, as does Ahsoka, because they do have like the rest of Ahsoka season 2, and then if there's a crossover film, then but I think for right now he's probably still sort of important because like this dude, he had the big win, but like other than that, he just really, I don't think that he was like in comparison to the people around him, I don't think that he was more impactful than Han Solo. Just being honest, I think that Han Solo has done more.
He would have if he stayed in the known galaxy. That's the big caveat with that. Well, I mean, he would have teamed right up with Luke and probably started teaching Luke how to whip those lightsabers around because he would have had a few more years of training than Luke did.
Yeah,
but that's not what happened. So I'm with you. Sort of important. This next one, we had some other figureheads like this on the list, like Bail and Luthen. and you know, Nala Se was on there, Omega was on there. We whacked all their asses, but we decided to keep Mon Mothma just for the fact that she did kind of willingly put a bullseye on her back when she declared the Rebel Alliance to the galaxy. You know, she begrudgingly is working with Luthen and kind of aiding his cause to gather up all the cells and form an alliance. But after that, she becomes a figurehead. She doesn't fight. She's all politics. She's just a leader. Leia is truly the true leader, the fighter, the true general of the Rebel Alliance. So I mean, honestly, Nick, to kind of kick it off, and I'll let you kind of be the ultimate decider here, but I could almost put Mon right now into not important.
That's where I have her too. Like, she is purely a figurehead. Like, she didn't start the rebellion. She didn't fight in the rebellion. She didn't. I mean, like, as far as we know now, who knows? We'll see in Andor season 2.
She did some risky political stuff, as we're seeing in Andor, but that's about it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I would put her as not important because guess what? Like, this, like, even if Luthen was still there, like, this rebellion would have been in, like, functioning and probably achieved the same thing with or without her there. Like, it wasn't her call for the mission on Scarif to go down. In fact, I think she was, like, absolutely opposed to it, or like, I can't remember which side of the line she was on there, but like, she wasn't like, we have to do this mission has to go off. Like, she didn't do that. Like, she didn't
even want to do Scarif. So I mean, she was a bit timid.
Yeah.
It was Bail was kind of like, hey, come on, you know.
Yeah, this is so, like, she's not important. I would even take her as, why are you even on this list? Like, she's literally, like, she gives the speech before, you know, like the Death Star.
You know what, man? Fuck Mon Mothma. You're right. See you later. See you, Mon. You're going down there with Goldenrod and Galen, homie. All right. Okay, we've made it to our last character. It is Rey from nowhere, who became Rey Skywalker, used to be a Palpatine, started out, in my opinion, as a fantastic character, you know, basically Luke, but a girl, even though some people can't handle that. McNugget, where's Babu Frick? Babu is on the honorable mention tier board, my friend.
Yeah, he's on the next one.
So, I mean, Rey, obviously kind of like Luke, came into it late in life, was just kind of meandering around, didn't have a family, gets sucked up into this galactic conflict, and instantly becomes a you know, an agent for good, an agent for change, clearly strong in the Force, helps on the Starkiller base raid to get the shields down so they can blow it up. TLJ, she in the end saves the Resistance, helps to take out Snoke, almost convinces Kylo Ren to go to the light side. Obviously in Tross, after finding out she's a Palpatine, she doesn't let it define her, and she becomes better than her grandfather. And through the help of Solo and all the Jedi, she finally nukes Palpatine for good.
Mm-hmm. Saves Kylo / Ben Solo twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have her as important because she is the one that ultimately takes out Palpatine for good. Like, she, like, fucking channels all of them, pops them, he's done. She is, as we know, in possession of all of this knowledge base from the Jedi Order, and is again, like, she's going to be a moving scale because there's a whole movie coming out with her as the lead. I would put her as important right now because of the Palp takeout and her role in saving Finn and taking out the Starkiller base. I feel like those are two pretty big things.
I do. I mean, I think she fits right up there with her foil
counterpart. Ben,
Kylo, and R2.
Found Luke Skywalker, and ultimately is the reason why that, like, he ends up joining them too. Like, you know, if it's not for her, Luke probably doesn't, you know, force project himself onto Crate and help the Resistance out. Yeah, I mean, I
love that here going. I mean, he's literally like a C-3PO Homer. This is fantastic.
C-3PO also got them into Jabba's. How?
by knocking on the door. It was what I said. I mean, he knocks on the door.
Luke Skywalker walks up to the door and
well,
just
no, remember the
in.
droids get there first though, but R2 is technically the one that gets him in because he's the one that says, "No, we're gifts for Jabba."
Yeah,
so.
we're gifts. But then, like, as soon as Jabba, like, the thing is like, I don't even really know what C-3PO does in there because honestly, even if they didn't do that before,
he just
like,
bitches and moan and says, "Why didn't you tell me the plan? What do you mean we're fucking gifts, you asshole?"
Yeah.
Like, he just keeps
he
bitching.
has no fucking clue. And then also, Luke Skywalker just walks right in that motherfucker. Like, it didn't even matter if the droids, they were like, he's Luke Skywalker, he's a Jedi. Like,
man, I'll tell you what, tangent, Star Wars Outlaws, don't sleep on this motherfucker. I finally made it to Tatooine. Holy fuck. Is it just not like being there, man? It is amazing.
Nice.
Like, I just did part of a main mission in Jabba's palace. Flawless. I mean, all of it's recreated. Even the hangar we saw through the Book of Boba Fett, man, that game, it really is something you can just fire up every day for 30 minutes to an hour and just, who gives about the missions? Let's see what we can get into. Let's see if we can fuck over the Imperials, or I want to really dig at the Pikes today, or I want to get on the Hutt cartel's better side. All right, well, there we go, young Nick. We did it. So, according to the Star Wars Time Show host, these are the most important overall Star Wars characters: Yoda, Kenobi, Anakin Vader, Palpatine, and the twins. Okay?
Yep.
Important characters: Ben Solo, R2, and Rey. Sort of important: BB, Chewie, Han, Maul, Dooku, Qui-Gon, Ahsoka, Ezra. Not important: Fives, Darth Bane, and Lando. And finally, Matt's on drugs and should have just trimmed these three so he had an even 20. Why are you on this list, people? Galen Erso, C-3PO, and Mon Mothma. Don't forget, friends, the fan poll or the live voting poll that other people can create their own boards is going to be live at least until midday on the 19th. Go ahead and get your votes in, and we will definitely compare and contrast what we did live on the show to what the fans do. But let's check in, Nick, to see where they're at right now. Let me get a reload. Not many participants today. We're up to 13, 151 votes. The fans coming in at total results. Oh, that was my list. My most important was pretty slim. I had Anakin, the twins, and R2. Check that out. Anyways, here's where the fans at. Most important: R2, Anakin Vader, Yoda, Chewie, and the twins. Important: Kenobi, Palpatine, Solo, Maul, Ahsoka, 3PO, all the way up in important. Nick and I, we're dickheads.
There's no fucking way that he is important.
Mon Mothma down up in important again, another major boost.
Dude,
sort of important: BB-8, Qui-Gon, Ben Kylo, Galen, Dooku, Ezra, Rey. Fives, not important: Lando. Why are you even on this list for the fans? Is reserved for Darth Bane.
Yeah, I mean, Bane. You could talk me into Bane being in. Why are you on this list as well? Because, like I said, he put out an idea and nobody really followed that idea. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, hey, everybody's got their. Hey,
there you go. Everyone's getting a little upset. No Jyn Erso in there.
Mothma dedicated her life to pulling political strings. But the thing is what did that do?
It wasn't until they started blowing shit up that the change happened.
But then they dissolved the Senate. Like, she's pulling political strings of a system that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
and then when the rebellion actually takes over, she doesn't even come up with the concepts of the plans. Like,
Bango's going in there with, hey, she's also hot, so that's two things.
She intros it. Like, she intros a plan that she didn't come up with, and is like, you guys go do this.
All right,
like,
well, fun as always, friends. We'll be back doing it next week with another special topic. We'll put our two little dumb heads together and figure out what the meat's going to be next week on the show. But for now, it's time to move into the fan segment because things are getting a little late here. We do it every week. At the end of the show, we will ask the fans a question on our socials. So Instagram, Discord, YouTube, even X, you name it. We will ask a question of the week. It's usually going to be themed around our special topic. So naturally this week we are asking our fans, hey, everybody, who is your most, or who do you think is the most important character in Star Wars, and why? So, Nick, let's go ahead and kick it off with our good buddy Johnny O.
Yes, Johnny says, hello, SWTS. So probably my least favorite character would be probably my least favorite character, but the most important would have to be Farm Boy Luke. So Farm Boy Luke specifically, or just Luke Skywalker. I say this because Star Wars was primarily a standalone movie, George, starting with episode 4 set a tone for Luke to be the main focus, but one can argue that the most important was and will always be the Astro Droid with the most R2-D2. Never underestimate a droid.
I hear that. I feel that.
Yeah, I feel like R2 is going to be everybody's answer. Next up, League of Extraordinary Sixthers. She says, going with the flow on this topic and saying Anakin and R2 are the most important. Without these two, there are no Star Wars. Yeah. No arguments there. 2797 Studios. Bat says, most important. I'm going to go with Anakin. Without him, none of this happens. Qui-Gon doesn't die. Padme has a normal relationship and doesn't die of a broken heart. Palpatine doesn't rise to power, maybe. And finally, Luke and Leia are never born. Skywalker saga canceled. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like I said, the most important character by far is Anakin. Yeah, I mean, 100%.
The whole damn thing's about him, so he's got to make the top.
Yeah. Mando Mugshot says, being of the OT era, I'd have to say Anakin and Palpatine. Without these, the saga does not happen. Very true. Jago Robbins says, definitely Anakin. He's the chosen one. He is the one who ultimately made the final decision to destroy the Sith and save the galaxy in the end. There you go.
He should have went to Exegol and unplugged Homeboy's life support.
Pull the plug.
Dago wrote this in all Japanese, so I had to use the C translation, so it may come off as a little broken sounding, but kudos to Dago for coming in and dropping the calligraphy for us.
For sure. So this is definitely going to read weird. Okay, so R2-D2. I think he saved the most swamps, which is almost assuredly it's something else. I don't think it's too much to say that without him, Star Wars wouldn't have continued. I mean, that's for sure. I like Yoda the most, but from a young age, R2 is probably the strongest Star Wars character, I'm thinking. So Dago YJ says R2.
Fair enough.
Makes sense. Mando Pirate says, I'm going with Luke Skywalker because without him, the Death Star wouldn't have been destroyed, thus instilling hope in the galaxy that the Empire could be defeated. Also, he managed to save Vader and turn him back to the light.
Good point.
Very good. Very good point. Nova Toymation says, R2-D2, without him, most of the characters would be toast. His introductory save in episode 1, Trash Compactor, launches lightsaber to Luke and ROTJ, just to name a few. The lightsaber launch, I did forget about that because I feel like that was mostly for like visual flair and effect. I feel like he could have, like Luke could have gotten that without the launch. But yeah, it was definitely cool. Definitely cool. Here comes Mr. EKU Rory, and guess who he thinks is the most important? Jar Jar, of course, puts Anakin on the correct path. Duh. Just straight up. Just straight up. Yeah. And then Air Rick 3 says Grogu, he's going to save the fandom. I doubt that.
Okay.
but,
all right.
But that was a fun one too. And then last one here, Divided Skywalker, R2-D2, because he always saves the day. He's the GOAT. Enough said. So, I mean, it's hard to argue against R2. I know that we didn't put him at top. We put him as important, but not most. But it like you can argue, like you can just make the argument that like his save in episode 1 is enough to put him as most important. But I really do think that they would have made it even if he didn't like stop.
It was just a trade federation. They weren't the best of
bro. It's like
battlers.
Yeah, like they had shot in 1,000 bullets and barely hit that ship already. So. But yeah, I mean, I don't argue against anybody who has R2 up there.
All right.
Good
well,
stuff.
Hey, thanks for participating. Like I said, if you want to get your comment out there read during the fan segment, just make sure to look for it on YouTube community where we do our posts in Discord and the question channel, Instagram, and X. Well, I've got Bango full on speaking German in the chat right now.
Like Bango's just gone full German now.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he can speak it. I led with Ich bin Star Wars, which I think is I be Star Wars or I am Star Wars. And then he came back with Ich liebe Star Wars. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I don't even know where we're at this point. So,
yeah. All right. But yes, thank you all for participating in the question of the week. Like Matt said, on our YouTube community, on our Instagram, on our Discord. Make sure to check one of those locations and you will be able to respond to the question of the week and have your response read on the show potentially. Now we're going to move into the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of the week. To get involved with this, make sure you tag at StarWarsTime.show on all of your Instagram Star Wars posts. That's how you fall into our tag feed, and that's where I pull the top 5 from. So to kick off the top 5 this week, we have an awesome shot here from Chava.Fernando on Instagram.
This guy.
And this is how Yoda spent most of his time on Dagobah, right? You just see him asleep in a rocking chair with a book on his lap.
This guy ain't important.
And, not important at all. But this is what I imagine Yoda did a lot of on Dagobah for
I
sure.
think this is what he was doing on Coruscant, for Christ's sake, to let everything happen right underneath his nose. He'd rip that robe off, get down to his tunic, get his favorite rocking chair, something to read, and pass out.
Yeah, I mean, just such a cool little setup here. I mean, like the miniature and painted rocking chair. The little tiny book. I mean, like everything looks so well crafted in this shot for sure. From at Chava.Fernando on Instagram. Next up, we have Mr. Stormtrooper Davis. And Mr. Stormtrooper Davis has given us an awesome shot from the beach on Scarif, looking over at the transmitting. It's like a very wide shot of a singular trooper standing on the beach, rocks washed ashore, and then far off in the distance, you can see the satellite dish, the transmitting satellite dish that ultimately is infiltrated and destroyed. And you can even see off in the distance too. It kind of looks like 2 X-wings, but it's probably 2 TIE fighters. They're just really hard to see.
Yeah, no, this is an awesome, like it pretty much is a landscape shot that has a toy in it and then some composite work, but it really does look like a lone, and it's a TK trooper, so I think it's a custom here. So it's a figure you can't even get, but he looks awesome, just standing there on that beach looking out.
Yeah, it's just it's a really poignant shot. Like this guy may be standing, like those may be X-wings in the background, and this dude's like standing on the beach. Like, is this how I fucking die? Like, is this how I go down?
It's a great outdoor nature shot with Star Wars toys. Can't beat it.
Can't beat it. Next up, we got Collectibles Nat or Collectibles in Nat on Instagram. And he gives us an awesome shot of Rey with her yellow blade ignited, standing on the sandy dunes of potentially Tatooine, potentially Jakku, who knows? But it is just a really clean shot of Rey. We don't get a lot of like Rey with her yellow lightsaber shots out here, and this is a particularly good one.
Yeah, I kind of wish I grabbed this version of Rey as a hot toy. I really wanted Scav Rey because, as I found out, she was my favorite version of the Rey. But she does look good in her Jedi Knight white. You got to dig it, and then obviously the yellow saber combined from green and blue kyber to make yellow. But yeah, looking good there, Rey. Hopefully, we get to see you again in your movie that probably will not get made. But hey, we can pretend.
We'll see. Next up, we have at Sissix. It's s.i.s.x on Instagram. And Sissix gives us an awesome shot of little baby Yoda, little Grogu, sitting there doing his Force meditation practice with Luke. And what he's practicing with is all of these chrome steel balls.
Yeah, they look like ball bearings, right?
Yeah, like little ball bearings that are awesome. They look fantastic floating around him and like catching the reflection off of the environment around them. It's just such a cool shot, and this is like one of those little chibi Grogu figures too.
I got a few of them right here. Now I think about it, they kind of hang on the desk with me. These came out when it was like Grogu craze, right? Retail Grogu craze. But as I too was like, I usually am not in. Well, I used to be hardcore chibi. These days, not necessarily in my toy photography, but this one also caught my eye. I was like, this is pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a cute looking figure, and the way that Sissix did the posing and then suspended all of the
that's pretty
the
impressive,
little ball bearings
right?
up there, really awesome. Really brings the shot to life for sure.
100%.
So make sure to give them a follow. It's s.i.s.x on Instagram. And then to close out the top 5 this week, we have a galaxy far, far, far away, and they're giving us an awesome shot of in action Darth Plagueis. And I believe that this Darth Plagueis head sculpt was done by Syndicate Custom Creations. Yep. So if you're seeing this shot and you think this is an awesome Plagueis, that's where you get it from. But yeah, I mean, Plagueis fully robed.
He's kind of got like that Darth Vader thing, right? Like
like that.
What would you even call that?
This like little chest piece.
It's like I don't want to call it a breastplate, but it kind of is.
Yeah, it's like kind of like an over the shoulder chest piece. Full black robes, red lightsaber ignited, fighting a combatant that looks almost to be Khmer, because it looks like he has one arm fully exposed.
It is the stranger. That's what they put in the caption. So it is.
Okay, so there you go.
Maybe it's training, or maybe this would have been the, well, you know what, you've had your fun, you're done moment.
Yeah, it's time to take you out now. So but yeah, I mean, all credit to Syndicate Customs Creations for this amazing Plagueis head sculpt. But the posing, the shot itself, fantastic work by a galaxy far, far, far away.
That's right.
And that's the end of the top 5 for this week, and that's the end of our show. So Matt, go ahead and close us out.
Woot, everyone. As always, we appreciate those of you that decide to join us live on your Wednesday nights. We know you don't have to. We know there's plenty of other shit out there to watch, and we literally are shit. So we love you. We speak your names. Good to see you in here, Ben, Bango, and the rest. McNugget coming in at the end. And then always, like I said, we did the roll call at the beginning for our All-Stars. So appreciate all of you. Like I said, this is why we do it. We do it to come hang out with the rest of you like-minded mofos on Wednesday. Be on the lookout next week. Young Nick is starting a new career, so we may or may not be kicking off at the same time. I mean, ideally in my head we would, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So just kind of keep your fingers on the pulse, as they say, the SWTS pulse. And the best way to do that is StarWarsTime.net. That's right. Get linked up with our socials. I'm fairly active, at least looking at them, and if there's questions being asked, I try to address them specifically in the Discord. So come, hang out, StarWarsTime.net. There's always time for Star Wars Time. Grab a podcast link. You want to listen to the show on Spotify? We got that. You want to listen to it on Heart Radio? Sure. Deezer, does that exist? Doesn't matter. We're on it. Tune in, same thing. If you just want to grab the RSS feed, hell, if you even want to download them, you can get the podcast. All we ask across all our platform is interact with us. Click on stuff, share stuff, leave comments, post it in your stories, like it, comment again, share it again. Rate and review, especially if you're just a podcast listener. And speaking to you podcast listeners, we always like when you make the crossover, or at least let us know how you found the show, what you're thinking of it. So write us, send us a DM, email us. You never know. You could be the next Divided Skywalker and fully join the crew here and transition over from podcast to the stream. So we'll leave you with this, as we always do. There's always time for Star Wars Time. Don't you forget it. And if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you always.